Welcome in.
Hello.
So we met. Was it Fighting Recovery or Fight for?
Yes, it was one of those Facebook pages. I'm on so many different
Oh my,
recovery pages, so it was definitely one of those that we connected on.
yeah. So am I. It's funny. I find a lot of guests on those pages. People will post their testimony. They'll post like, "Oh, here's my before and after," and I'm like, "Oh, I want to hear your story sometime." And I have a podcast. So because I've been doing this show for years, so I find a lot of guests on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, all over the world. It's been crazy. But I love doing it. It's definitely cool. But for us, we both in Pennsylvania,
That we are.
which is funny. Funny little coincidence. Now, my favorite question to start off with is, what is your clean date?
July 13th, 2023.
Oh, okay, cool. So you just celebrated 2 years.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was a Sunday. This
Mm-hmm.
past year, it was a Sunday. I know that. So July 13th is a big day for me emotionally. So I know exactly what I was doing July 13th this year. So my second favorite question to ask is what my GA, because I'm in Gamblers Anonymous because I'm a compulsive gambler too. And my gambling abstinence date is July 12th. 2024. So I just celebrated it a year, the day before you celebrated too.
Awesome.
But my second favorite question to ask is, what was happening for you in July 12th of 2023?
Oh my gosh. I got arrested.
Okay.
And, went to jail for the first time.
Oh.
Yep. So it was not a good experience, but things were meant to happen how they were, and it's what got me here today.
Yeah. So. Can I ask how old you are?
I am 35 currently.
Okay. Yep. Wow. So you made it 33. You made it to 33 without getting arrested.
Correct. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, for sure.
I cannot relate. But my last time getting arrested, I was 31. So, and it did stop me from doing opiates eventually. That's a lie. But it almost stopped me from doing opiates. My brain is so fucked up. I got arrested after the cops watched me buy 20 pills. They then followed me for a couple miles and then pulled me over in the school zone and arrested me for intent to distribute in the school zone. I got processed and released. And when I got released, I am such a drug addict who was withdrawing. I drove straight back to that same dealer's house and bought 10 more.
Yep.
Well, I stopped at the ATM. And then I went straight back to the dealer's house and bought 10 more because I don't learn lessons and I wasn't ready to stop. And I had shit to do and I couldn't be withdrawn for that shit. So what was your drug of choice at the time? Like, we're going to bounce around.
Sure.
I'd like to start with where it ends, if that makes sense.
Yep.
What was your drug of choice at the end there, July 12th, when you got arrested? What was going on for Ann at that time?
At that point, I was doing fentanyl with tranq in it and also meth.
Okay.
Yep.
How far are you from Philly?
45 minutes. And that was
shit. Yeah,
Kensington was my home away from home. They're the biggest East Coast, biggest open air drug market on the East Coast. Yeah. And that was literally my second home, going down to get drugs.
When I got arrested, it was in Camden County.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm from South Jersey.
Okay. Yeah. Camden's not a good area either.
No, it's not. I grew up right outside. In my town, it said Camden 2 on the sign. Like, I live 2 miles outside of Camden.
Wow.
And I have been in trouble in Camden a bunch of times. But I grew up 15 minutes from Kensington. I never went there because I had different dealers that I dealt with in South Jersey. But I have friends that did, I had friends And I've had other people close to me that lived in Kensington and got high in Kensington. And, it's just an unfortunate thing that happens. And I have people on the show. You're not the first one. I've had 2 women on the show that were homeless in Kensington. One of us lost her foot because of trank, and one of us lost her arm because of trank. And, I've talked about with other people in other parts of the country, the epicenter for trank is Kensington. That's where it started before it exploded out to the country.
Yep.
Like wildfire to the rest of the country. It just started in Kensington, Philadelphia, coming off the port. So 2 years ago, trank was huge. It still is huge.
Yeah.
It was especially huge 2 years ago. So you grew up 45 minutes from Philly then, or did you live?
Yeah, in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, Chester County. Yep.
Okay, so. Yeah, you have the accent. You got my accent.
Yep, so
you definitely have my accent.
A lot of my addiction was spent, down in Kensington and Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was never homeless or anything, but that was our go-to spot to get drugs.
No, I can believe it. I was the last 2 years of my opiate addiction, I was living in Lancaster County.
Okay, yeah.
Because I figured if I'm far away from my DOC, I won't get as high. Let's be real. I was driving an hour and 45 minutes each way, 4 to 5 times a week to get high and stay high. I had a good job and I could afford my drug of choice, which was Roxy's. And I was driving back and forth 4 to 5 times a week to get pills. And, I had a gas card. So gas money didn't phase me. I had a easy pass through work. Tolls didn't phase me. It's just the insanity. A few weeks ago I was hosting. I host NA meetings, and you don't have to say what fellowship you're part of. I break my own anonymity. That's just what I choose to do. I do respect Tradition 11 for people that don't want to ever break their own. Which fellowship they're part of, if any. But I host NA, and one of the meetings I was hosting was an open format, and I chose a topic which was insanity. And, one of my insane things was I was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, which is very windy. And I was driving to Jersey, and I would always count the little mileage markers. Like, okay, I'm 60 miles from my exit. Okay, I'm 30 miles. And this one day I was high on Xanax and I was going to get perks, and I was like, okay, I'm 30 miles from my exit. And then a minute later, I was 30 minutes past my exit, 30 miles past my exit.
Checks out.
Blacked out completely for an hour or for 45 minutes, going 90 miles per hour in an old cop car. So were you traveling to Kensington towards the end, like often?
Yes. I mean, yeah, pretty much through, like, my last run was 5 years, and is where we would go, to get our drugs pretty much every day. I mean, depending on our money situation, it could be every other day, but I mean, that was our go-to place to get our drugs for the
Now, when you say our, who do you mean?
So
you don't have to say any names. I'm just curious, like friends, boyfriend.
No problem. Husband. I was in addiction with my boy's father. I have 2 sons, and I met him in 2018, and it was shortly after I relapsed, after going to my first rehab ever. I connected with him. I went back to people, places, and things, and met him. And, we fell in love and never looked back. And we had the common love of drugs, and we used every single day of our addiction. We were like Bonnie and Clyde. We were inseparable, together all the time, 24/7, using drugs, So he was like, I don't even know, jack of all trades, making the money up here, doing this, doing that, going down, getting the drugs, and I would just follow. He was the leader, and I would follow.
And you met him in 2018 through rehab?
No, actually, when I got out of rehab, I got, clean for about 2.5 months until I relapsed. I returned to people, places, and things, started associating with people, and I justified then, I was like, oh, I'm only going to do meth, I'm not going to go back to opiates, so I don't have to go through that withdrawal again, but of course we know how that goes. And I ended up doing meth and, heroin at the time. And, through my meth dealer at the time, I got introduced to his cousin, and that's who ended up, I have been in a romantic relationship for the last 5 years with.
Okay. So let's bounce back, and then we'll play catch up. Born in Phoenixville.
Yep.
So for anyone who doesn't know, it's like Eastern PA. Like you said, about 45 minutes outside the city, west of the city. And brothers, sisters.
Yep. I have one older brother. We're 3.5 years apart in age.
A close siblings relationship?
Now we're close. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm the oldest of three, and my brother and I are 3 years apart, and I'm 9 years older than my sister. Okay. And now we're all really close, but it definitely was.
Oh yeah,
especially with an age gap. And then I was always, I found drugs and alcohol at 11 and kind of pulled apart from my brother and sister. They're the golden children, and never touch a cigarette a day in their lives. And I started smoking at 13 and drinking at 11. But nobody was watching me. It was the 90s, and my parents had 2 other smaller children, and we all played sports. It was chaos. It was mayhem. And my dad worked a lot to support us, and he worked very hard. Till the day he died, he worked very hard. And my parents stayed together the entire time until my dad died. So it wasn't like broken family and this and that, and grew up from a divorce. It was just me wanting to explore and finding things out on my own.
Same here.
Parents together?
Yep, my parents are together. I had a great childhood growing up,
Vacations and shit.
Up everything, everything I wanted and needed, schooling was good, everything, lots of family interactions and whatnot. I had a really good childhood. It just came down to me, like you said, exploring and getting in with the wrong people.
Yeah. Going down the shore. Were you a shore person?
Yeah. Growing up, we went to Ocean City, Maryland for many, many years until I got to college. We found Outer Banks, North Carolina. And
I love OBX. Yeah. I love OBX.
So that became our new, we've been going there for the past, I think, 15 years. We go back to the same house.
Yeah. No, I grew up an hour from all the shore, Wildwood and Sea Isle. And Atlantic City was 45 minutes away. So, but I grew up going down the shore. I was definitely a shore kid. I'm almost 39, and I never once been to Ocean City, Maryland.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I wear that as a badge of honor at this point.
Yeah.
Because of, now I'm not what am I going to do? Go down to Secrets and get drunk at the pool bars? Right. You know what I mean?
Right. Actually, they do hold an NA convention, and I was able to go to it this past spring in April.
Oh, no shit, really?
Today. So it was weird being back there in Ocean City, Maryland, but it was cool going there for an NA convention, and I absolutely loved it. It was my first convention ever, and it was such an experience, to be surrounded by all these other recovering addicts. And I was like, this is weird to be returning to Ocean City, Maryland for this type of thing. And, but it was really a really cool experience.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, I got clean in LA, in Los Angeles, which, people were like, how'd you get clean in such a big party city? And it's like, people don't realize some of the best recovery meetings are located in Kensington. Some of the best recovery you're going to find are in inner cities where addiction ran rampant, because what happens? The addict either dies or gets clean and becomes a model person in recovery. So the inner cities, you can get high and drunk and, but you can also recover in an inner city and be a great example for, and be a great predecessor for people that are trying to find recovery.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised that OCMD was cool for a convention, because, I think of all major party areas have great recovery networks too. So that's great. You grew up with a great childhood. I mean, and no kind of major trauma. It was mostly me trying to explore yourself and being like, I want to, see what's out there. And you're about my age. So it was the 90s, early 2000s. There was a lot on TV in front of us, a lot out in movies in front of us. Internet, really coming of age for us at that age growing up. And a lot of things were more at our fingertips than ever. Now, how old were you when you discovered drugs or alcohol, and what came first?
Oh man.
And I include cigarettes in this. So cigarettes came first. My parents never smoked a day in their lives, so I never smoked. I never stole their cigarettes. I would always like find them elsewhere. But so, did your parents smoke cigarettes?
No, nobody in my family smokes cigarettes.
Me
So
too. Okay, I'm the only one. Yeah.
right. Yep. So I started smoking cigarettes at the age of 16.
Okay. Okay. So you're a little bit of a late bloomer.
Yes. Yep. So the age of 16 is when I started cigarettes. And then it wasn't until my senior year of high school that I got introduced to marijuana. And that was the first drug I ever did. So I guess I was like 17, 18 then.
No drinking?
I want to say like maybe a few times my senior year. I got more into like drinking when I went to college for 4 years.
Oh, so you were
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but like high school was mainly just at the end, towards the end, smoking weed was like my go-to thing.
You were an academic. You went to school and you paid attention in school and you learned.
Yep.
You got into a good school, it sounds like, probably, because you went to a 4-year school.
Yep. It was a private Catholic college out in Reading, Pennsylvania, Alvernia University.
Okay. What were you going for?
I originally went in as a human resource management major, but then 2 years in, like once I started, like did all my like basic classes and I got into like more my major classes, I realized, oh shit, this isn't for me. So halfway through my 2 years, I switched over to become to major in social work, and worked my butt off. Like came home and did summer classes, those like and like extra classes each semester, and worked my butt off with changing my major halfway through to be able to graduate on time with all my friends and everything. And I completed, 4 years of college and graduated with my bachelor's of social work in 2012.
Oh shit. Okay. So you lived at school then?
Yes, I did.
You went away to school?
Oh, my school was far enough away, like it was only like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
That I would come home every weekend. I would go to church. My mom would do my laundry. I had a part-time job that I worked at a farm market. I would come home and work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those 3 days, so I had money in my pocket. I would come home to get weed and take it back up to school, so yeah, it was, definitely an experience.
So you were a pothead in college?
Yes, for sure.
Not really a drinker yet?
I think, started my freshman year, I started to drink. And then once I turned 21 while I was at college, it definitely became more of a thing. But that was really about it. I mean, just occasional parties, going out to the bar, nothing like crazy. Like I didn't love it. Like I had a love for drugs, and pretty much then when I graduated college, I came home and I would just drink socially, if that, a beer here, a beer there. And that was about it. I never had an issue with drinking and never really had a love for it. If that makes sense.
And when you came back, with a 4-year degree, were you able to find work with your degree?
It took a little bit till I could find work. And actually, believe it or not, my senior year of college, the spring semester, like right before graduation, is when I got introduced to opiates of perk 30s. So so that was like, I came home and like I wasn't like 100% for looking for a job, because I just gotten into doing the perk 30s, and it was hard to find a job and whatnot. And I think it was
2012. It was pretty big back 2012. I discovered them in 2008.
Okay.
And I'm well aware of how plentiful that area, of our area was in 2012 with Roxy 30s. We called them Johns. That's what we, and I'm sure what everything's a John, but we called them Johns, at least when you would text the dealer like, hey, you got any Johns? Yeah, like they knew that meant 30s. And excuse me, quit smoking cigarettes and still cough like I do. You discover 30s, we can just say 30s because I'm well aware of what they are. That was my drug of choice for a decade. Who, you don't have to say a name, but what happened? What was your introduction to, like, you going from, and you tell me your introduction to a 30 and I'll tell you mine. So what was your introduction? Do you remember what happened like that night, that day?
So actually the same person who introduced me to marijuana introduced me into the 30s. And that farmer, I was, coming home for a part-time job on the weekends, he was there, and I kept this job for like 15 years, so I stayed connected with him, and he was the one who introduced me to the 30s. And, I just found a love for them and became addicted to them for 5 years.
Yeah. Yep. Did you just eat them the first time?
No, I snorted them every time.
Your first time ever was you banged it up and snorted it?
Yep.
And they were like $25 at the time.
Yep, give or take.
Yeah, depending on how many you were buying and all that. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Now, my introduction was, it was 2008. It was October, right before the election, which is crucial in my story because as a pothead, I don't know if you ever picked up on this, right before every election, the borders get tightened. This is before legal marijuana and recreational marijuana, all this stuff. Back then, before an election, borders would get tightened and there would be a drought, which means it was very hard to get weed before an election because a lot of it wasn't coming over the border at the time. So there was a drought in October of 2008, and I lived on my own. I was 22, and I just turned 22, and everybody was always at my apartment because I was the only one that had their own place. So like everybody was always there, and my weed dealer was there, and I was like, "Hey man, do you have any weed?" And he's like, "No, all I have are these," and they were perk 10s. We call them school buses or bananas, depending on which brand they were. Yep. And they were school buses, I think, or bananas, maybe, I can't remember. And he's like, they're $10 a piece. And, I'm such an addict. I'm like, I'll take two, here's $20. I had work the next morning. I wasn't going to the bar. I was kind of over the bar scene at that point. And I took two, and I remember, and I'm not sure you probably can relate, what they talk about in literature is the I have arrived moment happened that night. The, holy shit.
Yep.
What is this? This is not weed.
For
this
sure.
Is something different. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get my hands on this every day?
Yep.
And within a week of me buying them every day, my dealer said, "Well, I don't have any more. It was just like a one-time thing." He was like, "But Lou, I'll say Lou, he passed away. He goes, Lou has them at the bar." So I hit up Lou. Well, let's be real. We lived in a very white area. Everyone called him Black Lou. But he ended up getting cirrhosis from being an alcoholic and passing away in his 40s from drinking himself to death. He was an awesome dude, though. He was hilarious. He was very, very funny dude. He loved being called Black Lou. He was very funny. And so, I hit him up and he said, I only got 30s. He was like, but you can snort them. And, they're only $20 for 30 milligrams. And I'm pretty good at math, and I'm like, well, I can get 20 milligrams of these big ones that I had to swallow for $20, where I get 30 milligrams for $20 of these little blue ones. Never really touched anything but a 30 ever again, unless there were no 30s around and all I could find were 10s.
Yep.
And I didn't want to withdraw. And I would, that only happened a handful of times. Let's be real. So yeah, once I discovered 30s, it was a wrap. It was no going back. All I wanted was to snort them up every single day, all day. So yeah, I get it. But you found them back at home while you were still going to school in Reading.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
How often did you start doing them? How long did it take you to get into them into where it was a daily thing?
Yes. So probably it wasn't until I came home and graduated. So the last semester before I graduated, I was kind of only dabbling with them, if you would say, and until I got home and then I was home and around them and easy to get them all the time, it became an everyday thing. And then I got, introduced to someone else, who was doing them and had them and everything. And I ended up getting into a 5-year relationship with him. And not the same person, two different people. And through my everyday relationship with him as well, we did had the common love of perks every single day.
Now, you came back from school.
Yep.
You moved back in with your parents because you couldn't find work right away.
Correct. Yep.
And you had been working the entire time you were going to school, so you had some money put aside, probably.
Correct. Yes, I
did.
You
blew through that money. You blew through that money pretty fucking quick. I would assume.
Did. Yep, I sure did. And I didn't land a job in social work till maybe 2 years after I graduated. I can't even remember. I want to say it was 2014, something like that. And I don't even remember how I got the job. Isn't that crazy? Having to pass a drug test and everything. I don't even remember that, but I somehow did. And I ended up working at our local hospital. I started off part-time in the cancer center as a social worker there. And then I graduated up to full-time in the acute rehab department, helping people who had strokes, hips, hip fractures, all that kind of stuff. But I was a social worker at our local hospital, and I was using the whole time. It was crazy.
Which is, it's common. It's a common story that I hear. Yeah. I was going to say, you're 2 years into your, 30 addiction by the time you landed that job, probably.
Yep.
Now, did you move out with this guy and live with this guy?
Yes, we did. So after living at, I was living at home with my parents for a little bit, and then we were both doing, the perks, and he was a carpenter and everything, and worked, a lot of hours. And, I ended up moving up to his parents' house for a little bit. He was 15 minutes from me. And, we really got, connected into, the perks then, right when we moved in together at his parents. We were going down to Philly, found 2 different dealers down there and bringing them back up and selling to people around our area, and so that was going on for a while. And then we finally moved into a house together when we got engaged, and thought that was the right move in our heads, but clearly it was not.
And because was he older?
Yeah, he was a couple years older than me. Yep. But we were functioning, I said, in our we justified it, we both had full-time jobs. It was this crazy life that we lived. I would go to work, and I worked a lot of hours at the hospital, and he was a carpenter, and we both come home late at night, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 at night, and then run down to Philly, go get our perks, and then come back up, sell them, and then wake up and do it all over again. That was our life for a while.
Yeah. What was your you remember what your daily habit was for a while, money-wise, with perks? Because
we were getting them down there cheap. I think at one point, when we first started going down there, we were getting them for $15 a pop. But then towards the end, the price started going up, and people wanted $1 a milligram. And I'm like, yo, this is getting crazy. Mm-hmm. But we would probably, I personally would do up to 6 a day, mm-hmm. give or take.
Yeah, I can believe that. Easily. I can easily do that,
Especially when we had them right in front of us, because we were, basically what we would sell, we could do for free.
Yeah, you were a middleman, and basically just to support your habit. You were selling them to support your habit, not to make any money, really.
Yep.
The money you were making was going towards living expenses. Did anyone in either of your families suspect anything at all the entire time?
Not a thing. It was like we were living a double life. Nobody had any clue. Nobody. That
make it even easier for you at the time?
I think so, in my eyes, I think it was easier, we just, put on this presentation that, we were this happy couple, but really deep inside we were both addicts. I never wanted to admit to that or saw myself thinking that at all, because I said, in my eyes, it was functioning. We were getting up, we both had jobs, insurance, made good money, had everything we needed, gas in our cars, trucks, whatever,
And since you came from a family of people that weren't addicts, they weren't seeing telltale signs of hey, Ann, why are your eyes so pinned right now?
Correct. Yep. They had no clue. Blindsided, for sure. No clue.
Did they know you were smoking weed?
Nope. Yep.
That was my go-to excuse. Every time I got called for being high, I'm like, I just smoked a little weed. And my
Yeah, I
parents
don't know. I
didn't
hit
do it
everything. I
either.
think maybe my parents had some suspicions, but suspicions or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. I did really good about putting on a mask on and just hiding it somehow.
Man, my family knew I was drinking and smoking at a young age. They just knew they weren't stopping me.
Yeah.
That was the difference. So yeah, you put on that mask. And no arrests. You were putting on the whole charade.
Correct.
You were flying under the radar.
Yep.
Nobody in town that you were selling to was flipping on you or anything,
Nope.
or beating you for money.
Nope.
Nope. Living the good life for a while,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, that's what, it's funny, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but
But
like, I joke around it today. Like I lived like, especially with like my counselor at outpatient, I lived like I was a bougie addict and lived like a bougie addict lifestyle, like, a lot, and I'm not trying to like toot my horn about that, but it
no,
was just,
yeah.
we had our ways and means to live the life that we did, and we took advantage of it.
But then something happened, obviously. Yeah. Something always happens. I mean, you're sitting here clean today.
Yep.
I know that yours ended in fentanyl with somebody else. So I know that something in that 5 years from 2012 to 2017, right? My math is correct on that.
Correct. Yep, that's right.
You were engaged.
Yep.
Getting high with them.
Yep.
Does one of you graduate to dope and the other one did not? What happened?
So what happened was
something happened.
Yes, of course something happened. We started like towards like once we moved in our own house together, we and of course we had our life made. The house that we moved into at the time was my grandparents' house. They were passed away, and it was my parents, at that time they owned it. So we were going to be renting from my parents. So basically when we moved here, our relationship just started to slowly drift apart. We both were working ridiculous hours and everything. And like my job at the hospital caught on, or something happened. I don't even remember what exactly, but I ended up getting drug tested and I got hit, for having, opioids in my system, but then like me, like, justifying or whatever, trying to find ways and means to, make it work or whatever and continue getting high. I got put like on a probation period for 2 weeks or whatever. And then like when I came back, I still continued to get high. And like the company that I was doing the drug test through, they would call my pharmacy and confirm that I had a prescription on file because I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out, or I got teeth pulled, and they were fine with that. Like they were like, okay, she has this in her system. They called the pharmacy, confirmed it. Okay, this is okay. And that was fine. So I was doing that for a while until they called me up one day with results, and they were like, oh, so, you Percocets. I said, yeah, I know. And then they said methamphetamine. I was like, what? Hold up. Like totally shocked by this. Like I never touched meth in my life, like was blown away by that. I'm like, how, like, is it possible? And like here, my fiance at the time, he had got introduced to meth behind my back and I didn't know it. And we would share straws, from doing the perks, and meth got into my system that way through the straw, from sharing a straw with him. And because he was doing it behind my back and I didn't know, and I lost my job because of it.
The residue.
Yep. So that's how it got into my system from him, and I lost my job because of it. And then shit just kind of went downhill between me and him then. And that summer we split ways, right around when I lost my job. And
he copped to it. He copped. You said to him, blah blah blah.
Right.
You don't gotta say names, but like,
right,
hey man, I just lost my job for meth somehow.
Yeah.
And that's when, did you see it on his face or did he tell you right away?
Yeah, I mean, like he wouldn't like admit it to me, but I was like, I know, like I see the people you're hanging out with, how you're acting, like it's obvious. Like I'm not dumb. It's the only thing that I could think of. Like there was no other possibility of anything else at all. I had never touched it, done it a day ever. I was only doing the perks at the time, and that was it. So that was the only solution that it was, and like I was like, I lost my job over this, and like things just started slowly trickling down from that. Like I said, things between me and him got rocky. We were slowly, drifting apart then. And then that was like the big thing. And I was like, okay, it's time to part our separate ways. And he went back home to live with his parents. And I remained at the house with our dog. I kept the dog. And, that was just like a rough time through me. Like I just lost my job. I'm now alone in this house. I'm going through a breakup, someone who I thought I was going to marry. and I felt really lonely, and in a time that was like just not good in my life. And so then that's when I ended up picking up meth. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do whatever drugs are given to me at this point, like I have nothing, I have no job, no nothing, whatever, and then I started doing meth then. And,
well, wait, let me, as an addict, as a bougie addict myself, I have to know, were you particular about your straws?
No,
you didn't care where your straws came
from. Whatever. Nope. I would use whatever, a dollar bill, didn't matter. Yep.
Okay. I was a Wawa and a McDonald's guy.
Okay.
They were fatter straws.
Yes, they were. Yep. I know. I already know.
I did not like the other, like 7-Eleven flimsy straws.
Right.
No. They were more durable,
Yeah.
But I wasn't sharing. It's crazy because people share needles and end up getting, diseases and stuff. And here you are just sharing a straw. And he must have been doing a shitload of meth.
Yeah.
For it to be caked up in there enough to be in your system enough to pop on a test.
For sure.
Because that means within the last 3 days or less, he had to have been doing lines of meth around you for you to not even realize, and then just take the straw, do a line.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we were both at work so much that we weren't even together that much anymore. So I'm sure
the straws were just left out at home.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Or we take it with wherever, yeah. Or he'd take the same one with him, in his truck, and then get home, and I'd use that, whatever, and yeah, probably doing a lot of it behind my back, like I said, and I never even knew, and then I popped for it, and that was the end of my job.
Okay, so he moves out.
Yep.
You don't have a job.
Correct.
Collected unemployment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I had good money coming in.
You had money coming in.
Yep.
What did you tell your parents was the reason for the breakup and for the job loss?
So that's crazy too, because at that time there were 3 other family members working at the hospital. My mom, my brother, and my cousin all worked at the same hometown hospital.
No shit.
So and I would even park my car in the parking garage, right near my mom and everything. And I remember those 2 weeks that I was on that probationary period. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, she's going to want to know why I'm not work. I would go down and visit her in the ER. That's where the department she worked during my lunch breaks and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? This is crazy. And I don't even remember. It was so long ago. But I remember there were definitely times that I went in. At the time, I only lived a couple blocks away from the hospital, and I would drive my car there and park it and walk home. So she would see my car, and think I was at work. And then I would just text her and be like, oh, things are super busy up on the rehab floor today. I can't come down for lunch, and I think that's what I kept up, different things like that, for that 2-week probationary period. But then when I finally did lose the job, my mom showed up at my house, and I don't even remember what led to it or exactly, but she knew something was up. And I just point blank came out to her. I was like, look, I lost my job, and I tried to explain to her, there was I don't even remember what excuse. It was so long ago. I don't even remember. I made up some type of excuse diet, because the people on the phone with me from the drug test company said diet pills could cause it to pop up as methamphetamine, whatever they were asking if I took them, stupid shit. And I think I tried to I justified it somehow to my mom and try to make it a lie, and didn't sit there and openly say, look, I have a drug addiction, problem here, and I just pushed it off and pushed them away and tried to act like everything is fine. I was like, it's fine. We'll bounce back from this. I'm going to get a job somewhere else. It'll be okay. And just kind of pushed the discussion, away and tried to make up a lie or whatever at the time, to get it, not register in their heads that, okay, she has a problem and she's an addict. So I manipulated them and lied to them somehow, with all that. And the truth didn't come out until a little bit later.
And why would you be lying? You've never lied to them in the past. It's not like you have a checkered history,
right,
of addiction and lies and deceit. So why now would you be making up a story? So, okay, I can see how your mom would be like, yeah, I believe that. Okay, right. I believe you. You'll get back on your feet, honey. Don't worry. Plenty of jobs out there. That whole spiel. So how do you go? Because you were getting your 30s from Philly.
Correct.
Did you continue going down to Philly, or was that his dude?
No, I did. It was his dude. We went down together, and then like, the dude like turned like I had really good money coming in from the unemployment, and so the dude started working with me then, and of course, he didn't like that, got wind of that, and didn't like that and everything, but and then all people started coming to me, and I was living like, in my eyes, a good life. I had unlimited supply of perks. People were coming to me to buy them. I had money from unemployment. Like everything was like on the up and up world, in my eyes at the time. And it wasn't even a thought on my head of getting a job, nope, I'm living this. I'm a full-time addict, like.
Were you still selling to support your habit too?
Yeah, yep. I was definitely still doing that, and I took a lot of the customers that me and him were together. They were just coming to me on the side and everything. And, things
Because
definitely
he was doing meth. So it's hard to like be consistent when you're doing meth.
Right.
As a dealer, it's hard to be a consistent person when you're doing meth. I mean,
right. For sure.
They're one of the hardest people to deal with is somebody who is on meth. Historically.
Right.
Besides a pothead who smokes their own weed, then they're really hard to buy weed from. Yes. So how soon into you being alone on unemployment, running your own show with the 30s, do you get introduced to somebody who says to you, well, have you ever really tried meth? Like because did you tell somebody like, oh, I got fired for meth and I didn't even do meth? And they're like, well, do you want to do meth? Like, how does that happen?
So, basically like we had a like small circle of people that we hung around with, me and my fiance at the time, and trying to think, I think that's who he was getting the meth from and whatnot. And like I reached out to the guy on Facebook and was like, oh, me and so-and-so split, you should come, by sometime, because he was there, at my house before, with all of us as a group hanging out. I was like, you should come by sometime or whatever. And then that's when, I had him come by and I tried it. And then it became a regular thing, of me buying from him coming over or whatever. And, along with the perks, so that was like my two like big combination right when my life kind of went to shit then with those two drugs.
So how were you before meth? Because like 30s woke me up.
Yes.
Most of the time,
yes.
If you weren't a drug addict, if you're not a drug addict and you take a perk 10, a perk 5, you're down for the count.
Right.
You're not moving for 12 hours. Me, I would not move, do 120 milligrams worth of 30s and be vacuuming, cleaning, doing dishes, running around like crazy. The 30s kept you up, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Like me, like an addict, like a true blooded addict.
Yeah.
Now, but when you got introduced to meth, that had to have been a whole new level of being awake.
It was. It definitely was, for sure. I mean, I remember like it was crazy. It was a whole new love that I enjoyed. Like I'd be up for a week at a time, days upon days. I wouldn't know left from right, like what time of day it was. Like I just like when I was on meth, I lost so track of time. I'd be in the kitchen emptying the dishwasher. Next thing you know, I'm organizing my, closet, and then I come back out to the kitchen hours later and be like, oh shit, the dishwasher is open. I was unloading the dishes, And, I had lost a lot of weight, on when I started doing the meth too, because I just never ate. I was up all the time and never ate and was just constantly on the go doing things, but it was different from when like I was just doing perks. Like I was functioning in my eyes then. And like, this was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a more
focused.
Yes, focused. And, I could tell it was like, it would catch up to me, obviously, too. Like, my record was being up for a week at a time, and I'd be like, okay, I need to, like, force myself to sleep, but it would be, like, so hard, and
because the 30s aren't bringing you down either, I'm sure.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Were you still selling the 30s to support your meth habit?
Yep.
Were you doing less 30s because you were doing so much more meth?
Yeah, probably. Yep.
Okay. Were you snorting the meth the entire time early on?
Yes, I was.
And I say early on because were you eventually introduced to a needle?
Yes.
Okay. From the same person who originally sold it to you?
No.
Okay. We're getting there.
Yes, we are.
It's 2017 still.
Yes.
And you're snorting. When I say snorting meth, I mean your dust, not, or glass rather. Yeah. Hot rails too.
Hot rails too. Yep. You got
I'm
it.
good at this.
Yes, you are.
Smoking it?
No, not at that
No,
point.
okay.
Snorting it cold and then hot rails.
Hot rails, okay. Hot rails are wild. It's
yes, they are.
Fucking concept.
Yes.
I've never done meth. Adderall I liked, but never did meth. But I've had a sponsee that was in the meth, and that's where I heard about hot rails. I'm like, you guys are fucking crazy. So, and for people that don't know, go ahead. What are hot rails?
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. It's when you put down like a line and then you have like a glass pipe and you light up the end of the glass pipe and then use the glass pipe like a straw to snort it.
Oh my God. Wild, man.
It is wild. And then you blow the smoke out. It's just so crazy.
It's anyway. So you're doing that and you're eventually introduced to a needle.
Correct. So yeah. So like basically, I was doing
usually meth. That's where a nosedive happens.
Right. Well, yeah, give or take. So I was doing the perks and the meth for a while. And then because I was so alone and like my unemployment was getting ready to run out and everything, and then my meth dealer, he ended up getting locked up and going to jail. So I found somebody else, and here this guy was getting ready to get kicked out of a hotel he was living in with 2 kids right around Christmas time. And I was getting meth from him at the time. So I was like, oh, I have an empty house. I'm lonely. You can come stay here for a little bit. So I let him come.
Oh, you didn't do that.
I did. I let him come live in my basement. And that's really when shit got out of control. I mean, he was dealing every, drug possible, giving me Ativan, Xanax, heroin for the first time. I started snorting that, it was just everything that was that was his payment to me for staying there, was giving me free drugs, And keep in mind, this was my parents' house at the time. So I wasn't paying any bills to be here myself. They were taking care of things, and they had no clue that I had this guy move in or anything.
Because it was your grandparents' house, so I'm sure the house was paid off.
It was. It is paid off. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So my parents just didn't have any clue. If I would see them or whatever, I would go over to their house, for dinner. They rarely came over, whatever. And then I think it was he moved in December, and then it was that, New Year or whatever. And I was going over to Sunday night family dinner, and before I left, I was so fucked up. I had snorted Xanax and Ativan and all these things at once. And thank God I made it there driving, and they only lived 10 minutes away. But I remember this specifically. We were at the dinner table, and I zonked out in my plate of food, and they didn't know what to think or anything. And it was just overwhelming for them. And me though, I played it off somehow and talked to them and whatever. And I just started a new antidepressant at the time. And my brother being a pharmacist, I was like, oh, it's this new medicine. And he's like, oh, these could have some side effects or whatever. So I got them to believe that it was this new antidepressant that was making me this way. And they're like, well, we don't feel safe with you driving home. So I called my girlfriend who I was in, doing drugs with. And also I was like, you need to come get me. You're a nurse, to play it off with my parents or whatever. And I ended up going home, she helped me get home and everything, and stayed at my house to watch me, quote unquote, AKA do drugs. And my parents then showed up a few days later to check in on me after that episode. And that's when I'll never forget it. I was in my bedroom with my girlfriend, and there was a knock on the door. I'm like, who the fuck is that? If it's a dude in the basement, why didn't he just whatever? So I opened the door, and my mom was there. And I just quick close the door. I was like, oh my God, that did not just happen. My mom's not in my house right now. What's going on?
Am I in psychosis?
What's that?
Do you think you were in psychosis?
No, I wasn't. My mom was definitely there. I literally opened the door and she was there. And I'm like, oh my God, why is my mom here right now? And I'm freaking the fuck out, starting to hide shit. So I came out and I'm talking to her or whatever. And she's like, why is there a girl on your laptop in the office? And why are there stocking hungs with these names on it for Christmas? And why is there a little boy playing video games in the basement? I'm like, oh my God, yo. I was like, this is not good. And like, I don't even remember, like, I don't even remember what I said to them at the time. I played it off like, oh, it's just a temporary thing is I think how I put it with them. Like, they're in the works of getting a new place, someone that I knew through someone, and I'm just giving them a temporary place to stay for a little bit. And they said, okay, whatever, they just need to be out by whatever. And unfortunately that didn't happen.
Were you shooting up at the time when your mom knocked?
No, I was not. I was just snorting everything then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you obviously did not kick them out like you said you were going to.
Nope.
I'm assuming that it was this dealer that taught you what shooting up was?
No, it was not actually.
It wasn't?
No, believe it or not, it was not. So, I'm trying to think. Fast forward, like he ended up being there from like January, February, March, and then I think into April. It was Easter. It was Easter morning, and like this dude was like crazy. He was like seriously had some problems and whatnot. Obviously, being a drug dealer, and I was trying to,
the writing's on the wall,
right. So I was trying to leave to go to my parents' Easter morning because like I felt unsafe and like I wanted to get out of there, and he ended up cornering me and my dog in my garage, closed the garage door, took my car keys. I had no way out with the gun and like freaked out the fuck on me, pointing this gun at me. I was like, yo, just let me go to my parents. Like, I want to just fucking leave. It's Easter. Leave me the fuck alone. Like, making all these crazy accusations that I was stealing his drugs. He had cameras set up all over my house, like crazy shit. Like the dude was psycho. And by the grace of God, he finally gave me my car keys back and let me and my dog leave and go to my parents. And I remember it was specifically Easter morning, and I finally broke down to them. I was like, look, this guy has got to get out. It is not a good situation. He just threatened me with a gun. Like, we got to figure something out. And like, I literally like broke down to my parents then. And I said, I have a problem, like with drug, like something needs to happen. Like, I'm not okay. This is not okay. Like, we got to come up with a fucking plan, and like, that was like a really big deal breaker, then, opening up to them about everything. And, that's when I willingly, openly agreed. They started looking into rehabs and they found one for me. And, I willingly went, and I was like, well, we need to come up with a plan to get this guy out, and like, there's squatter laws in Pennsylvania are all over, so I was dealing with that. And like, my parents ended up hiring a lawyer, and like, believe it or not, like right before I went to my first rehab, I came here and moved all my shit out into a U-Haul and put it into a storage unit. And I ended up going to rehab with him still living in my house in the basement, like, because it was just the best solution at the time. Like, I left him with nothing, no toilet paper, no curtains, no utensils, like I didn't touch any of his shit, but like everything that was mine, I took, packed up, put it in a storage unit, and off to rehab I went, and I went to Malvern Institute in Malvern, PA. And, my parents said they will handle getting him out. They had the lawyer hired and everything. And like, they ended up like, they were allowed to go put like a post on like the door or whatever saying you need to be out by this certain date and whatnot. And like, they ended up like breaking a window trying to get in and different stuff. And like, he eventually did end up leaving, thank God, him and his kids while I was in rehab. So, and there wasn't a whole lot of damage to the house, luckily. So
how long did you go away for?
I was there just under 30 days. Like, I think it was 24. 28. Yep. I did detox and inpatient. Yep.
How was your experience?
It was wonderful. It was a great experience, really. Like, for it being my first rehab, and like, I was scared, didn't know what to expect, but I was like, obviously, like, shit has gotten bad. Like, I had a gun pointed at me. Like, I need to go do something about this, and I went in there with an open, mind, and like embraced the whole experience and everything, and really just made the best out of it, and like, it's so funny. Like, when I was in there, I'm like, I'm once and done. Like, that was my mindset. Like, once and done, I'm doing one rehab done and moving on with my life. Obviously that wasn't the case, but it was overall a really good experience and helped me a lot. And they transitioned me into like outpatient then that I did for a while as well up until
like
my relapse.
Yep.
Like IOP. Yep, exactly.
And so you did 24 days roughly. $25 a month. You know, you came back to the house.
Actually, no, my parents would not let me come back to that house. Everything stayed in storage. The house was empty, and I returned back home to live with my parents.
Okay.
So that was a hard change.
Yeah, I'm sure. Were you introduced to any kind of 12 steps while you were in Melbourne?
I was introduced to that when I went to Melbourne to the rehab. And like I went all for that. I was like, this is awesome. I love narcotics. When I came home the day that I was, you know, released, discharged, I hit a meeting, and I was doing meetings daily and really got heavy into recovery in my area. You know, going to all the meetings. The one was in the summer, you know, early months, springtime, whatever. I could bring my dog to it. It was outdoors, like, and my dog was my best friend at the time, you know, so I hit it hard and was going to meetings really heavily, you know, in the very beginning when I first got home out of rehab.
Yeah. Yep. No, it definitely makes sense to me. I did the same thing. I am a one and done rehabber. I've had some relapses since then. I'm not going to say I haven't had some relapses,
right?
But they weren't significant enough to end me in to put me in rehab again. You know, like one was with alcohol for like 9 months, but I wasn't like overdoing it, drinking and driving. There wasn't consequences. You know, it was to the point where I woke up hungover and I said, fuck this, I'm done, you know, kind of deal. And, you know, I haven't drank in 5.5 years. And then like my dad died and I relapsed with like Ativan, which turned into Valium. And then I quit that. And then it was like the holidays without my dad for the, you know, and I relapsed with Xanax. I haven't bought street drugs in 7.5 years. You know, even the Valium and the Ativan were prescribed by my psychiatrist. The Xanax was prescribed by my psychiatrist. You know, I was getting high for $1, and the Xanax lasted 9 days and ended up but it ended with an overdose and a psych ward stay.
Ooh.
So I didn't go to rehab for a second time, but I definitely did a psych ward for a 72-hour hold. Which was, I'd rather go to rehab for 28 days and do a 72-hour psych hold. Never again will I want to do that. So now everything's going well.
Yes.
It's 2018.
Correct.
2018, for people that don't know, fentanyl really kind of kicks off.
Correct.
Fentanyl had been around, but it really exploded in our area around summer 2018.
Yep.
Is when fentanyl really like hit the scene hard in Philly area.
Yep.
And that's when people started dropping like flies in my people that I know.
Yep.
Wild to think about.
Yeah.
Because I got clean April 25th, 2018. And then the explosion happened that summer. So that's how I can pinpoint when it happened. And Trank wasn't too far behind. Trank was right after COVID. Yeah. Trank was like right after COVID, I think, 2020, 2021. Yeah, that was right around then. And we'll get there. So 2018, how long do you like stay doing well?
For like 2.5 months is all I made it.
Okay.
Yeah, not long at all. I went back to people, places, and things. By that point, you know, my original meth dealer was out of jail, and I heard that news and everything, and I went back with him, you know, and just, you know, it was in front of me, and I was like, oh my God, why not? Like, I'm back at home living with my parents. I don't have a job, nothing, you know, like whatever. So I realized, and like I said, I justified in my head, oh, it's just going to be meth. I'm not going to go back to opiates, you know, and it'll be okay. Like, I won't have to deal with withdrawal, nothing, you know. So I got back to doing that, and that was the summer of 2018, and I got introduced to his cousin, who was my boy's father, and you know, he was doing meth at the time too, and I think it wasn't till like that was like I got introduced to him in July. We were doing meth together, whatever, in our little group of friends. And then that August, someone I went to rehab with, believe it or not, was like, "Oh, can you give me?" Knew I had a car and like was like, "Can you give me a ride to Philly?" Da da da. And like that's like when he showed me Kensington and was getting bags of dope and everything, and like he wanted to pay me in bags of dope. So then that's when I started going into doing heroin again. Was then August, even though like I told myself I'm not going to do this, but I was put in a position, you know.
Had you shot up yet?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay.
I was snorting it then. And so then, like, you know, kind of
Oh,
getting.
so wait. Whoa, wait. I
Yes.
want to. Sorry.
It's okay.
That makes me curious because you went from 30s
Yes.
to meth
Yes.
to a smorgasbord of everything.
Right.
That dealer living in your basement,
Right.
snorting heroin,
Yep.
but not a lot
No. Correct.
because you were mostly doing meth.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Like when I
You were
went into
probably
that,
snorting heroin to keep up your opiate,
right.
so that you weren't withdrawn from opiates.
Correct.
You would snort
Yes.
a little bit of heroin. All right,
Yep.
I'm not withdrawn. Now I can do meth. Okay.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly it.
Now you go to rehab.
Yep.
You come back home.
Yep.
And about 2 months later, your meth dealer from back then
Yes.
gets out of jail.
Yep.
You meet his cousin.
Yes.
And then that summer, somebody from rehab hits you up and says, "Take me to Philly if you can." Yep. And in return, I know you liked heroin, so I'll give you some heroin.
Correct.
The heroin you did was heroin.
Correct. Brown. Yes.
Yes. And now is this a guy or a girl? I don't want to miss it. Okay, so this dude is like, "Hey, I'll give you some dope." And you're like, "Okay, dope." Like, I know what dope is, right? Not even thinking it's fentanyl, or did you know it was fentanyl the first time?
No, actually, it was still brown at the time.
Okay.
Where we were getting it, like, it was still brown at the time. You know, it wasn't until, like, I think a couple months after that I got into the Fetty. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I know what this is like. I know, you know, it's fine. And, like, I really wasn't even doing a whole lot of it, you know, and I was just snorting it, you know. And then, like I said, I was hanging out with my boy's father, you know, and he, you know, he had like previous heroin experience back in the day too, you know. And then I like confided in him. I was like, so I don't do just meth. I, you know, recently just got into, you know, back into heroin again. And he's like, oh, I did that back in the day too, you know. And then so he was the one I started shooting not only meth up with, but the heroin.
So that dude that you took to Philly,
yes,
that wasn't even a consistent thing. That was more like a one-time thing or a couple times.
It was a couple time things, you know. But from that, then I knew where the spot was, knew where to get it, how to get it, and I told. Can I say names on here?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
So don't use last names.
Right.
Don't use last names.
Okay.
But yeah, you could say first names. Yeah. It's up to you.
Yeah.
It's your anonymity.
Perfect. Yeah. So my boy's father's name is Johnny. So, you know, I told him once, you know, me and him were doing meth together and I confided in him that I was doing heroin, you know, I explained to him how I was getting it, where the spot was. I could take him there and everything, you know, as long as we had the money. And so then that was, you know, me and him linked up that way. And then me and him started going down to that spot in you know, Kensington to get it ourselves then, you know, and I didn't need that other guy anymore. He basically just showed me where the spot was and told me type thing, you know. Yeah. And so then that became me and Johnny's go-to thing was the heroin and the meth. We were shooting both of it every single day.
And how long before, you said a couple months before you were introduced to fentanyl?
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't long. So we only went to this really spot for a couple months that we were getting the brown heroin. And then like those people just disappeared off the block or whatever. And we had to go elsewhere. And we're like, oh, this stuff's white or whatever, you know, and we started doing that. And sure enough, you know, it was fentanyl, you know, and it was definitely a different jump from, you know, just the brown heroin up to fentanyl, you know. But of course, being an addict, we're like, oh, this shit's awesome. We need to get more of this, you know. Yeah. I'm so glad we came across this and found it, you know. Yeah. And that was just then our go-to.
And higher.
Yep. So
now, the first time you got it and it was white, did you ask the dealer like, "Hey, what is it? What is this?" Or did you Google it, or did you just put it right into a needle? Or
yeah, we just put it right into a needle. We knew. I mean, from talking of other drug addicts in our area and other people down in there, we knew it was slowly coming into the area, and the brown, you know, dope was, you know, getting out, you know, and the white was coming in. So we knew it was going to be a matter of time till we came across it. And like I said, you know, we tried it, we loved it, and wanted more.
Yeah, so you saw that it was white and said, "Oh, this is fentanyl instead."
Right. Yep. We knew. Yeah.
You knew.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I was driving towards. So you knew it was Fetty.
Yep.
And did you do a little less than the brown the first
time? Yeah. That was like one thing. Like, you know, as crazy it is being an addict who shoots, you know, dope and everything, like we would be smart about that. Like if we ever got anything new, we'd only try a little bit, we'd ease into it, whatever, and like that was what we did. But then slowly over time, our tolerance went up, Huh.
Probably pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about fentanyl is the tolerance too, from what I've heard.
For sure. Yep.
Now, because like I said, I haven't done opiates in 7.5 years almost. So like, I'm lucky that I got out of it before fentanyl, or else I'd be not coming back.
Yeah.
I'm like, there has been thoughts, where I would be like, well, maybe I could do a little coke, and I live in the middle of nowhere now, nowhere near where I got high. So I don't know anybody, but I know I'm not an idiot. I know how to find drugs. And at one point I was just not in a good spot, and I was like, maybe I can just do a little coke. And then like I started like playing, they tell you play a tape through. And luckily I do work a solid program to the point where, when I started having these thoughts, I raised my hand for a burning desire, and shared about it, and talked about it with people and all that. But before I did all that, I talked to myself about it. Like, where is this going to head? And where is this going to go? And the first thing I thought of was, I can handle a little coke, barely any withdrawal. Not to sell it to people here, not to sell it. But the problem lied in, and it still lies in, what if there's fentanyl in it? I don't know exactly what that opiate feels like. And there is no coming back once I touch an opiate again. And I know that about myself. Is that I can't. Maybe I could drink again. Maybe. I don't want to. I have zero desire to drink again. That's why I haven't. I quit drinking 2 weeks before COVID hit. Zero desire to drink ever again. I smoked weed all during COVID. I'm not going to lie. I quit smoking weed last April. I went to a rehab in Los Angeles called High Sobriety. It was the only rehab in the country that helped you get off opiates using cannabis. So I used cannabis for a long time with a medical marijuana card and smoked. And then it got out of hand towards the end, and I was like, I'm done. It served its purpose. I still support people that, if you want to smoke weed in your recovery, go ahead. It's your recovery, not mine. I'm not going to judge you. I've had people on the show that use cannabis in their recovery, good friends. And I'm like, as long as you're not putting a needle in your arm and you're not spending your entire paycheck and robbing people and stealing from people to weed, smoke your fucking weed. It's not for me anymore. It's part of my life then, and it's not going to serve me into my 40s. So I quit. My wife quit. My best friend quit. And we don't smoke weed anymore. And, I joke around, the dispensary in our town shut down. I think it's because I quit smoking weed. So yeah, that's what happened, with me, with weed. But I have no desire to smoke weed anymore, no desire to drink anymore. But, today I have a choice to not do opiates. But the second I take an opiate again, I will lose that choice, and the opiates will have me.
Yep.
Well aware of that. I lose that choice, and I have the power of choice today. And I'm going to hold on to that for as long as I can, because I made it this long. Like, I'm even afraid to touch kratom. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck is in that.
Absolutely.
I don't need to know. It's not for me. So, you're banging fentanyl. You don't know, shooting fentanyl, banging fentanyl, whatever you want to call it. Are you working?
No.
Are you selling fentanyl locally?
No. So when I got with Johnny, my boy's father, he us addicts, we're smart in many different ways. And he had a thing for metals, copper, brass, you name it. And
I already know where this is going.
Oh yes, it's going. So that was how we first started, supporting our addiction, really between me and him. And, we lived a couple
converters too.
Cadillac converters too. Yep. You got it. Everything. I mean, every kind of wire, anything possible. Like he had an eye for this shit.
It's not my first rodeo, man.
Yes. So a lot of people don't know, and I'm like, oh, well, let me inform you. So that's pretty much how it all got started, and we were feeding our addiction that way, and like we had a couple different spots. He was living up at a camper for a little bit. We ended up leaving there in the winter, went to his mom's house for a little bit. We were homeless, living in a box truck at one point for a couple months.
A box truck?
A box truck, yeah. He actually hooked it up really nice.
Stop. You can't say that in the same sentence as box truck. And you can't say we had a box truck that we hooked up really nice. We put Christmas lights around it.
Yeah, we had electricity in it. Yeah,
you did, didn't you? I knew it.
Oh my gosh! But we ended up leaving there. And
you didn't leave there.
We got kicked out of there. We got kicked out of there
to a new location.
Right. Well, it was never an operating box truck, and it was just like portable and like not working. Yeah. Yeah. So it was just like in one place all the time, and the owner of the land like played connections and saw this like electric cord, and followed it to the box truck, and then like came out and talked to Johnny. It was like, you can't be here. You can't do this. You got to leave. So I luckily had my car at the time, and, me, him, 2 pit bulls, and everything that we owned at the time in the box truck. I'm like, yo, where the fuck are we going to go? And like, it dinged on me. I was like, my house, that is empty still to this day, that my parents owned, that was my grandparents that I once lived at, is still there. Like, I know my dad goes, checks on it, whatever. And I was like, that's it. Like, we have to go there. We have nowhere else to go, And so we packed everything up, drove my car here, and like I still had the garage clicker, in my car. So we like coasted into the garage, on a Saturday night, and Sunday morning came around. I was like, my mom, my dad, and my brother are all at church, and I know where the house keys are hanging. So when they went to church, I went home to my parents' house, got into my parents' house because I had a key to there still. Took the keys for my, the house I wanted to get into that once was my house, took them off the hook and came in and let myself in. And I was like, well, I guess this is our new home, and like my dad.
I didn't ask this.
Yes.
When you relapsed after, let's say 3 months, and
yes.
You relapsed and then you met Johnny.
Yes.
And you're living out of a box truck and a camper and this, that, and the third. And, driving to Philly all the time.
Yep.
Not working.
Right.
Did your parents say to you, like, what are you doing? Or did they just give up and be like, she's on a run?
So I'm trying to think, like, it didn't happen till like right before we got homeless. So like, I think they may have had an idea, that things were going on. We lived in Philly at one point with this guy. We lived at his mom's, the camper, everything. It wasn't until like right before we got homeless that shit blew up at my house, my parents' house. And like my mom had to come home from work because like I was like erratic and like went on a fucking spiral because they wouldn't, like, my dad knew I was high and wouldn't let me leave and drive to go see Johnny, who was walking to, towards me. And that's when everything blew up. The cops got called, ambulance got called, whatever. And I voluntarily said I would go to the hospital, to the ER, but I ended up just getting there in AMA, and I had my phone in my bag, and I called Johnny and I was like, look, find a ride, come get me. I'm at this hospital, whatever. And from that point on, I didn't talk to my parents from that. Like, it got really bad that day, and I didn't talk to my parents. I didn't have my car, but I was with Johnny and he got drugs and had drugs, and that's all that mattered. And so then that's when we went our little stint of being homeless and found the box truck and everything.
So you weren't talking to your parents?
No, I had a time period that I was like out of their lives and didn't talk to them at all. Right after that, situation happened with the cops coming to their house and everything.
Yeah, so you weren't talking to them when you went into their house and helped yourself to your keys?
Nope.
But you knew your parents were religious, and you knew that they were at church because that was what they did every Sunday for your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I knew exactly where the keys were hanging in the house and everything. And I said, this is the ample, perfect opportunity. You know, they're not going to
They
be
were probably at church praying for you.
probably for sure. And I went and got the keys. And, you know, my dad would come in to the house weekly just to flush the toilets, check on everything, make sure it was okay. So like he came that week and like both our dogs were in the window barking and like he didn't even know what to think. I mean, he knew both the dogs and like, you know, probably put two and two together. But like he literally saw them, didn't come in the house, got back in his car, reversed out of the driveway. And I'm like, oh my God, Johnny, like, what do I do? I don't want him to call the cops on us, but like, I'm sure he knows that it's us, you know, whatever. And I was like, I need to just like text him and tell him that it's us. So that's what I ended up doing. I was like, look, Dad, don't call the cops. We had nowhere to go. We're the ones here. You know, this is what happened. I went and got the key, let ourselves in. You know, I'm sorry, but it is what it is, you know. And it was shortly after that that Johnny, myself, and my mom and dad had a sit down with them, you know, and they basically said, like, look, we know you have a drug problem. You need to take care of it if you want to stay at this house, and you guys need to get jobs. You know, those are the two conditions we have in order for you to remain living at this house, or get clean, you know, get in some type of program and get jobs. So we were in agreement with that after we had this whole sit down and everything. We, you know, I called, made phone calls to an outpatient place, you know, for us both. We both went in, got evaluations done and everything. And then right when that, you know, we were getting ready for them to tell us what type of treatment we needed or whatever is when COVID hit. And so, and all the meanwhile, we never stopped using drugs, you know, we were just going to continue to use, you know, it's what we liked and what was good for us and working and everything. And then COVID happened and everything went virtual and whatnot. And, you know, being a liar and manipulator, I told my parents, oh yeah, we're enrolled at, you know, this outpatient place, but it's all virtual because of the COVID, you know, So we're doing good. We're getting clean, making groups, you know, whatever, you know, all the meanwhile, that was never happening. We never followed through with the outpatient stuff and just continued getting high, you know, and said, okay, well, at least we have a roof over our house, you know, heading out. You know, but there was like no furniture, no nothing. We had only the belongings from the box truck in here, you know, in the house, and that was it. But it was better than nothing. Running water, you know, house over our head, roof over our head, and all that.
But then you got pregnant eventually.
Yes, eventually. Yep, I did. So that was, I'm trying to think, that was COVID. I don't even remember if that was like, we moved in, I think around 2020. And then like finally, like my parents gave in like a few months later. It was that summer. They gave me the key to my storage unit. So then Johnny and I went to my storage unit and got all my furniture and everything from when I first, because I lived in the same house, you know, when I was engaged, you know, that's the house I returned to. So we got everything out of the storage unit and brought everything here and basically created a life, you know, for myself and him and our dogs. Had my car here, you know, everything that we needed, you know, all the meanwhile, we just continued to use, you know, and like, we would bullshit my parents on, you know, like, oh yeah, we're looking for jobs, we're trying to apply, whatever, you know, and we gave them money from time to time, you know, because he had different gigs that he did from scrapping and whatnot, you know, so we helped them out.
Checks during COVID.
Right. Though that, yeah, we got on a PUA too. So that was another big income of money. So we were, you know, making them happy. They were getting money in our pocket, whatever, you know, and, you know, we were just living this life now in this home, me, him, and our dogs, and going down to Philly every day, getting our Fetty and doing meth and all this, you know, and it just, everybody was okay with it and it worked, you know, and it just was what it was. So, and then I guess I'm trying to think. 2021 came around. I guess it was the end of 2020. I found out I was pregnant with my first son. And I found out, I'm trying to think, I don't even remember when I found out. I think it was January. Yeah, it was January. I didn't find out till January. And like, I was definitely freaking out a little bit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? We're in no position to take care of a kid, you know, have a kid. Like, we're drug addicts. Like, we don't have jobs. Like, this is not good. You know, and, you know, it was just, I justified in my head. I was like, it's going to be fine. Like, we'll figure it out along the way. He always tell me it'd be okay. We'll figure it out. We'll deal with it, you know? And, I eventually ended up telling my parents that I was pregnant at April. I remember giving them like a little announcement in an Easter gift of the ultrasound picture. And like, I had like, try to convince myself in my head, like, I'll get off this shit by the time the baby comes. You know, but then as like I read into it more and like, you know, got a knowledge of the whole thing, I was like, I can't stop, you know, with this child growing inside of me. It'll be hell for me to go through withdrawal, but it'll be really dangerous for him too. you know? And so that's like, Johnny and I just talked about it, and we're like, look, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. It's best for, you know, me to deliver the baby, be open and honest with the doctors, and he'll get the care he needs medically once he's born, you know, rather than just up and stopping in the middle of a pregnancy. Like, that's very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what we did. And August 4th, my son was born, and it was crazy. All my prenatal care, you know, and I was supposed to deliver at my local hospital where my mom and my brother worked. And when it was getting time to, like, I was like literally like, you know, getting ready to have this baby, I was like, I can't go to Phoenixville. I said, my mom and brother are going to see that, you know, this baby's in the NICU, and why my brother will be making his drugs. Like, I can't have this. So, like, we just picked a hospital at random in Philly, Einstein. And, you know, we had to go down and get our drugs anyway. And, like, I remember, like, it was like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. We copped our drugs. And then next thing you know, I'm waking up and we're at the hospital, you know, and it was time to have the baby, you know. And, yeah, so my first son, Brody, was born into addiction. And I had to go through a NICU, 33-day NICU stay with him down at Einstein. And that was difficult, not being able to take my son home, but I knew it was the best spot, you know, for where he needed to be medically, you know, and to be cared for. And by the grace of God, he had no other problems. He was born a beautiful, healthy baby, 7 pounds, 14 ounces, you know, no other issues. Morphine was the only thing that he had to be on while he had his NICU stay. So I'm like forever grateful for that.
Parents didn't question that your baby was in NICU for 33 days?
So here's that. I never told them from when he was born. I hid that from my mom and dad. So they never even knew that their grandson was born. Because I said to Johnny, I said, look, we can't tell them like why their grandson's in the NICU. Like, they thought we were clean at that point and doing decent, you know, because we were giving money towards the house. You know, we were in outpatient during COVID, all that. You know, I said, I can't let them know this. And so we decided to hide, you know, the birth of him. And we just shut out my mom and dad, his sister. We ghosted everybody. And, you know, my birthday's in September, and I'll never forget it. You know,
September 24th.
Yep, correct. We were getting ready
Your email address gave it away.
Yes, it definitely did.
my birthday is September 29th.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when I saw the 924 in your email address, without saying your email address, when I saw 924, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
by me.
That's awesome.
I just
Very
knew
cool.
it. Yeah.
Very cool. So my birthday came around, and like I said, I ghosted my parents, cut everybody off, like just shut them out. And like my mom was trying to be the bigger person. I'll never forget it. We were backing out of our driveway to go somewhere, and I was sitting in the back seat with Brody, who was home from the NICU at that point. And I see my mom walking up the street. She didn't even park near my house or anything. And like, you know, wanted to come give me like a cupcake or a Dairy Queen ice cream, I think it was, for my birthday. And like her peering into the car and us backing out was the first time she ever saw her grandson. You know, and like, obviously that was emotional. We just went and left. And then like, I think it was soon after that, we finally went over to their house for the first time with Brody. And, you know, once again, we made up a lie. You know, we said that
Can I guess this one?
Sure.
Right. If this was me, and if I was you, my lie would have been something like, you know, we had the baby, we wanted it to be private, and my head was just all over the place. First baby brain, and I was dealing with postpartum depression, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was just really trying to make you proud and do it on my own.
Pretty close. That was pretty close. Yep, yes. That was pretty close. That was like most of it, you know, like we wanted to remain private, and we didn't want to let anybody know about it or anything. And we told them that the NICU stay was because, I can't remember at the time, but he was jaundice is what we told them, you know, and he had to be under the lights and everything. And that was our excuse as to why he was in the NICU stay, you know, but he's healthy now. And, you know, basically they just accept it for what it was. You know, I don't know whether they believe me or not. I don't know, you know, and then they got to meet their grandson and kind of be in his life a little bit, you know, and whatnot. And we just kind of moved forward from it and didn't really discuss it much, you know, because I said it was a private thing. Me and Johnny didn't want anybody to know, and this is it, and just accept it or not, you know, type thing. And then, of course, I had, because of giving birth to him, you know, and being under drugs, I had CYS get involved. So I got assigned a caseworker, and
can't lie to them is easy because they're not the religious parents that haven't had the wool pull over their head a couple times.
Right. So Got assigned a caseworker and everything. And, you know, originally they wanted, you know, to me to be in some type of treatment or have something going on, have a drug and alcohol eval done, you know, whatever. And of course we lied to CYS and said that I was the only one with the drug problem, that Johnny was completely clean and a normal human being. And so that was what we deceived it to be. So like when Brody was discharged home from the hospital, he actually got discharged home to Johnny, you know, because he was the clean adult in the house and could provide supervision and let me be there. And when Brody got home, I agreed to try the methadone clinic. I said, that's what I'm going to try and give a whirl here, get into that program. So I'm in something, you know, and everything will be okay with this case. So I tried going to the methadone clinic for 2 weeks. Psh, that went out the window. I was like,
Wake
I don't
up
have
at
time.
5 a.m. every day.
Exactly. Or driving there last minute to get there. I forget when they closed 1:30, and I would never show up there like 2 minutes before the door shut, or I would forget to go or whatever. You know, I was like, this ain't working. And it was a half-hour drive one way for me. I was like, no, this is not working. I don't not happening at all. So I gave up on that after 2 weeks.
The addict mindset of I will drive 45 minutes to an hour into Philly to go cop, to be like, I'm not driving a fucking half hour to get clean. Are you shitting me?
For sure. For sure. And all the meanwhile, while I was at the methadone clinic, since I just signed up for it and did intake, I was still getting high the whole time, you know?
You can.
Yeah, exactly. So that didn't work out, you know, and
I'm not a big proponent of the methadone clinic, to be honest with you. I'm okay with people that use Matt. I'll start there. People that use Suboxone, you know, to get off of an opiate. I think that Suboxone is way overprescribed, and people take it for way too long. I feel like if you get on methadone or Suboxone, you should also be starting an exit strategy the day that you start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm going to get on Suboxone and it'll be a 3-month taper, and I'm going to start with this and then taper down for the next 3 months, and then I'll be done with everything.
Yep.
But it's not done that way. It's overprescribed.
Yep.
People take way too much Suboxone and then they're high on the Suboxone, and it's out of hand.
Yeah, they get hooked on it for years. I mean, anybody that I pretty much know on methadone at the methadone clinic or Suboxone have been on it for years. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I went to rehab, they were like, "Do you want Suboxone?" This was 2018, and I had taken subs plenty of times throughout my addiction to like get well. You know what I mean? You know, my dealers are out. I can't buy any pills. I'm just going to take a sub, and I won't get high today.
Yep.
The worst was when you would take a sub because nobody was good. You take a sub, and then your dealer's like, "Hey, actually, I'm good," and you're like, "Fuck."
For sure.
I can't get high anymore.
Yeah.
Oh man. So when I got to rehab, they're like, "Do you want Suboxone?" I said no, and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "I need this to hurt. Mm-hmm. If I take a Suboxone, I will be back here because I'll be 1, too comfortable, or 2, you know, I'll be back here for Suboxone to get off Suboxone." I was like, I'm okay with this hurting for a week, you know, and it wasn't that bad. It sucked.
Right.
Like, you don't die.
Right.
Alcohol, you can die. Xanax, you can die. But opiates just suck so bad.
Yes.
But you're not going to fucking die.
Correct.
It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Okay, so you try methadone for 2 weeks and
nix that idea. Yep. So we basically just played off, you know, continued getting high all this time, you know, and played, you know, had the money from the PUA, from COVID, everything, you know, and played off my CYS worker, you know, like I just would prolong every month, like this case was drawn out for a while, and eventually to close it, she's like, look, I just need you to get a drug and alcohol eval done, you know, somewhere or whatever, and then it'll get closed out. So like me, I was like, well, if that happens, like it's, you know, they're going to know I'm still getting high and whatever else, you know, and I said, I really don't want to go down that avenue of it. So I reached out to my family doctor, and like through Penn Medicine or whatever, they had a psychiatrist on board. So somehow I made it that I had this eval done through my psychiatrist, through my family doctor's office. And, you know, it was documented, all that. And she made a recommendation and I'm pretty sure I sat and lied through the whole thing, you know, and she ended up making a recommendation for me just to end up doing like one-on-one counseling somewhere, you know, but then my caseworker through COIS was okay with that. She took that documentation from the psychiatrist and my family doctor at Penn, you know, as like a technical drug and alcohol eval, and that she got the paperwork she needed, and my case got closed out and no questions were asked, and that was that. You know, and that was like, I think it was like 6 months after Birdie was born. And then, yeah, I'm trying to think. So Birdie was born in 2021. So 2022 rolls around. And at this point, like Fetty with Trank is like pretty heavily known. And like, that's a whole different ballpark.
Yeah. So that's where I want to, okay.
Yeah.
Now you go to Philly and
yes.
You hear that Trank is around.
Right.
Now, are you aware of how much more dangerous Trank is compared to Fetty at this time?
No.
You just hear it's a harder high.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Now, for people that don't know, Trank, when we say Trank or xylazine,
correct,
is horse tranquilizer. It is made to put down fucking horses.
Mm-hmm.
And people are putting it in needles and shooting it, like it's dope, and getting high from that. It is extremely dangerous because once you start using Trank, there's no going back to Fetty, just like there's no going back to heroin from fentanyl, and there's no going back to 30s from heroin.
Yeah.
It's the progression of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you hear about Trank. Were you afraid to find it, or were you looking for it?
No, I think it just found us. Like, that's the thing. Like, when we would go down to the city and cop, it's such an open drug air market down there. Like, there's just dealers on every corner, you know? And, like, we would get a certain stamp and like it for a little bit. But then, like, once we were getting, like we were just, I don't even know how to pronounce, like, the high wasn't, like, really doing anything for us anymore. We would switch to a different stamp. And then that's how we came across the Trank. We were just switching up dealer, you know, going to a different corner and different stamp. And that's how we came across the Trank. And we're like, oh, shit, damn, this is really different. It really knocks you out and zonks you out type shit, you know. But we liked it, you know. Yeah. And so then, like, it was crazy. Like, it was mostly everything down there was starting to be Trank then. Like, and if we would end up going to a stamp that just was Fetty, we would start to withdraw because there was no Trank in it. And we were so used to, you know, it being Fetty with Trank or just Trank or whatever when we were getting it, that if we did come across a time that it was just, we're like, oh, this shit sucks, it's not working, we'd have to go right back down to get stuff that had Trank in it because we would start to feel, you know, and it was crazy. You know, we kind of eased into it, but then, you know, it's obviously slowly progressed and you get used to it in your body and whatnot. And, you know, it becomes more and more. But it was like a whole different love and a whole different ball game. And like that shit was crazy dangerous, you know, especially now that I had a baby in the picture to take care of as well. You know, like it was like I definitely tried to limit myself, you know, during the day versus when he was sleeping at night. That was like my time to go all out, give or take, you know. But crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens, you know. And how old is your other son?
So my other son is they're 13 months apart.
Okay, so you did get pregnant again.
I got pregnant, right after. Yep, exactly. So my second son, Brickley, was born on September 4th, 2022. And let's back up a couple months. So when this Trank came out and got really, really bad, Johnny decided to leave on Father's Day to go see his other son and spend Father's Day with him. And like this Trank that like we were doing at the time had him so fucked up or whatever. Like it wouldn't hit you till like after the fact. Like you could shoot 2 or 3 bags and be fine and up and move it, and then it doesn't come in till after the fact. Yeah. So long story short, he ends up getting into a car accident, and he was gonna take his son to the shooting range at that point, and had a ghost gun in the car. So he crashes the car, has a ghost gun in it, gets arrested. So he's now in jail on Father's Day, June 2022, and I'm at home like 7 months pregnant at this point, have my other son to take care of. It's almost his first birthday. This other baby's going to be coming along soon. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I was like, I got to find a way to get him home. And like his bail was set really high. Convicted felon, ghost gun, you know, whatever.
Was he driving your car?
Yeah, we had 2 cars at the time. Yeah, so it was
Oh,
my
okay,
second
okay.
car. Yeah, crappy car, luckily. So I still had the first car. Um, and like prior to like him getting arrested, he had started a new gig with the scrap wiring that was bringing in a lot of money. Because I think right around then, 2022, PUA was starting to let up and wasn't really around.
It
And so
was.
we needed to come, find more funds. We were used to having all this money. So he came up with a new gig that was bringing us in a lot of money. And it ended up biting us in the ass down the line, but it was power line wire is what he was getting his hands on. And he had a whole crew of workers, and it was bringing him in really, really good money. And so with him getting arrested, then his bail got set really high. He's like, you need to get me out of here. Send those guys to work, go, and get me out of here with this bail. And he ended up having to sit for 30 days until his bail got reduced, and I was able to get him out finally
But he had to come off drunk, cold turkey in jail.
Yes, he did. Yep. And I remember him calling home. I'm like, look, like, I know this is the perfect opportunity to stop. You're going to be coming home eventually clean, whatever, and I really don't want you to come back home to this shit. But I said, I'm not in a position to stop. Like, you're now not here. You're my go-to Bonnie and Clyde person, like, I'm trying to figure shit out, take care of our son. I'm 8 months pregnant with our other son, and I can't stop. Like, I literally can't stop, because once again, it'll harm the baby, so long story short, I was able to come up with, like, I forget what it was, like $3,500, in money to bail him out. And he didn't come home till a month later. And so he made it for our son's first birthday. And my other son being born too, which by the grace of God, thank God he was here, because my second son, Brickley, was born on our bathroom floor. So thank God he was here for that. That was not planned. And obviously, because I didn't stop using, Brickley too was born addicted, to drugs. At that point, though, I just was doing Fetty with Trank then. I had cut out the meth, after I got pregnant for the second time, and just was doing the Fetty with Trank. And he ended up having a 31-day NICU stay, had to go through all that again. But like, we justified in our head, we're like, okay, we've been through this once already with CYS. We know the drill. It'll be fine. We'll get through it. It'll be, we'll just do what we did before, was our mindset that it's going to be fine.
Which hospital did you take him to?
Because he was born at home, it couldn't have worked out better at the timing. He was born at home. And so they took him to the hospital 5 minutes away where I used to work and where my brother worked. But thank God my brother was on vacation and with my parents. And it was Labor Day, and he wasn't coming back to work till Tuesday. And so they took Brickley there. The NICU was full, and they were like, oh, you can either have him transferred out to Reading Hospital or St. Christopher's Hospital in Philly. And I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. We need to go down to Philly to get our drugs. So let's send him to St. Christopher's so we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get our drugs and go visit our son. It's like crazy the way the mind thinks, but like, that's like what I justified in my head at the time and thought was normal.
Yeah.
So that's where he ended up, was at St. Christopher's in Philly for a 31-day NICU stay. CYS got involved all over again. We asked for the same caseworker that we had with our first son, because we, had a relationship with her, obviously, and manipulated her one time. And
they're not going to give you the same one again.
They did, actually. Johnny Pressford. Johnny is like a real stickler. And like, he had a couple other people, like workers, come to our house, and he wouldn't even let them in the house. Like, he threw up a whole storm, like, you're not coming in here. I want Suzanne back, whatever. And so they finally assigned us, to her again, because she knew how to handle us.
Manipulator.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, so we were open again. It was another CYS case again. And, he went back into doing that gig. Once he got home, he's like, just get me home and I'll make us all money again. Was going back to that wire gig, Powerline wire gig and everything. And, once again, I hid the birth of Brickley from my mom and dad and didn't let them know, because he had a NICU stay. And I didn't explain it till after the fact. And I think with him, we used the lie that he was having issues attaching, to the eating and was having problems eating. I don't even remember. But yeah, it was just a vicious cycle. And like, we had so much good money coming in from this gig. And you know,
had money coming in.
right. And then we were giving our parents money. They were happy. Like, it didn't matter, you know, everything was good. We were full-time drug addicts, you know, but like living a somewhat together life, you know, had money to do things we didn't want or need for anything. You know,
but
my
that
kid,
power line gig he was doing wasn't legit, was it?
no, hell no. No,
So.
it definitely was not
so.
legit. No,
I
but I mean, it went on for quite a long time. And fast forward to 2023, he didn't get caught up with that till February of 2023. And I was able to get him out on $1,000 bail because I had the money. And he came home from that and he's like, okay, I'm going to stay away from this. Like, obviously they're, you know, whatever, up to it, whatever, you know, they're on to us or whatever, but, you know, type thing. And he stayed away from a little bit for it. And then like, went back out in like March with his one buddy that lived in the basement who was on his work team. And they,
team.
Yeah, that's what he called it. It was a crew. Like, you don't understand. Like, we had a yellow light on top of our vehicle to like look like they were like workers, the hard hats, the vests. Like, they went all out, like, to perceive that they were like legit, you know, and no question. You just see these guys out in the field doing work, you know, whatever, like as a subcontractor. It was crazy. And they went out and like Johnny had a bad feeling about it. And his buddy ends up getting arrested. And Johnny got away, luckily, and did not. They didn't stop him, pull him over till hours after the fact. And we're like, oh, what are you doing in this area type thing? We know you were with Grotti. And like he tried to play it off and lie to them. And they ended up making him walking home. And they impounded our vehicle because he wouldn't let him search it. So I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, what the fuck? And we got the car out, you know, paid the impound, you know, to get out, got the car back. He never got arrested. They just wanted to search it. You know, they had no charges on him at all, but because they wouldn't let him search it, you know, they took it. And so we were able to get the car back and everything. And little did we know, fast forward, you know, he's continued to stay away. He's like, okay, this is really a wake up call. I need to stay away from this power line gig. Like, they are onto us big time. They know I need to stay away from it. So he was doing other scrapping to make us have money come in, keep us well and all that, you know. And it was June of 2023. He went out and was going to get us a dryer belt the one day because our dryer belt broke. And he's like, on the way back, and he's like, I'm going to be passing through where the wire gig it was, you know. I think I might have some rolls still stashed out there in the woods. I'm going to go check. And needless to say, he never came home that day. And back when they impounded our car, they put GPS on it. So they were watching our every move and following him, saw that he was out in the area of the wire in June, and arrested him right then and there. And he never came home. And I knew in my heart, you know, it's 8 o'clock at night and he left early in the morning. I'm like, something happened with this motherfucker. Like, he ain't coming home. He got arrested, whatever. So no longer 8 o'clock at night. I walk out, you know, outside to smoke a cigarette. The kids are in the kitchen in their high chairs. And I hear this honk of a horn. I'm like, oh, maybe he is home, but just parked on the street. But why would he do that? Walk around the corner, look down my driveway. 12 state troopers walking up my driveway, served me with a search warrant for my house. And I'm like, they're like, so by the way, Johnny got arrested. I was like, I figured so, you know. And so then they came to my house looking for the wire, you know, and like, we're onto it. They didn't find any because we didn't have any here, you know, but they destroyed my house that day, you know. And not that I lived, you know, I lived as an addict, you know, and the environment was not good. And that's basically when things majorly spiraled for me, big time, was when they came into the house, search of the house. And, you know, CYS then got another call. My case was still open with Brickley. It never was closed out. But they're like, okay, the police now have reported, you know, the conditions inside this house. Because we would always clean up everything before. Every time we knew our caseworker was coming out, we cleaned up, made it look like we were living a normal life, you know?
And this clean father, Johnny,
correct,
who is not a drug addict,
right,
is now in jail
correct,
for a felony when he's already a convicted felon.
You got it. So, yeah, they knew something was up. So, right 24 hours after the house got searched, my car was impounded again. You know, I was like freaking the fuck out. And I was like, well, I got to go Kensington, get my drugs. You know, that's the first and foremost thing before I deal with any of this fucking nonsense. We shared a phone, me and Johnny did, so I didn't even have a phone. He got caught with it when he got arrested, and I'm like, well, I got money. I'm going down to Kensington, I'm getting drugs, getting high, whatever. And, yeah, it wasn't until then, like, my parents, I don't even remember. Somehow my parents got a call from someone, somehow knew that shit hit the fan. He got arrested, whatever. Oh, and CYS showed up at my parents' house looking for me because I had no phone. They showed up at my house. I wasn't there. I was in Kensington copping my drugs. And I finally told my parents, I was like, look, I will come tonight and share with you what's going on. And then when I was there that night and share with them, an emergency CYS worker came out at like 9:30 at night to my parents' house and was like, look, she cannot return to this home with these kids. She needs to be under 24-hour supervision. This is what's going down.
So
and
you didn't even get a chance to like bullshit your way out of it.
No.
They were like,
they blew up my spot.
An addiction.
Yup.
And your parents found out everything from the last couple of years.
Yup. They did. Just like that. Everything got blown up right then.
Were you concocting a lie the entire day that you
yes. For sure. For sure. You know, I definitely was, you know.
Like, how am I going to get out of this one?
Yep, exactly. And I was like, oh shit. And then like, I got really mad when they said I couldn't return to my house with my kids. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not allowed to be alone with them. Like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy.
You returned to the house, but not the kids with you.
Right, correct. Yeah. So, and of course I wanted to be around my kids. So the solution was me and my boys, and not all the meanwhile, my house was a shit show from them searching it. Like, everything tossed everywhere. Like, it wasn't even livable. Like, you could barely move in it. So long story short, I ended up going to live with my parents under the 24-hour supervision with the boys so I could remain with my two kids, you know, and whatever else was going to have to, you know, be done. But that last month from when Johnny got arrested up until I got arrested, the 24-hour supervision, CYS getting involved, I didn't get charged, you know, with anything from the house that night. You know, they took a few tools and whatnot. There was no wire here. Tons of drug paraphernalia. Oh my God, so much shit in the house that they took, you know, but they didn't even take it all. There was so much of it, you know. And yeah, so I agreed, you know, to living at my parents' house, you know, but all the meanwhile, I was still getting high. I was lying to them. I'd leave the kids there during the day, go down to Kensington, cop my drugs, get my drugs, tell them I was at my house trying to clean up to get it in good living conditions, you know, for CYS to do a walkthrough for us to return there, but wasn't. You know, and it was just like, it was really, really bad. You know, things had gotten like out of control. I picked meth back up. I started smoking meth with my girlfriend because I just was like trying to stay awake, trying to stay normal. All this was going on. I just lost Johnny. I now have to fend for myself, which I never had to do. Like, it was a lot all at once to take in. And like, I just didn't care. There was no telling me this, that, and whatever. Like, we even did this like Zoom thing with CYS and like another agency that had, you know, my parents on it, CYS, my CRS worker, you know, everybody was on it. Johnny from the jail cell was on it. And like, everybody was like begging me to get help. And I would not sit there and admit I had a problem. They're like, you can do this for option. We can send you to treatment here. Da, 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 da. I was like, no, I do not have a problem. Like, you guys are full of shit. No. And like, I just didn't want to have it, you know, and was like, no. Like, I could not sit there and admit to say that I was an addict and I had a problem. And I was just pushing everybody away. You know, but really, like, I was hurting deep down. Like, that last month, I was, like, going to lose my shit. Like, everything that happened, it was really hard for me to take it all in. And, like, it was just a lot all at once. You know, losing him, having to move home with my parents after being out of there for so many years, having these boys. They didn't even know their grandchildren, really. You know, we lived a very private life. They rarely saw them, you know, and it was just, it really went downhill. And then, like, one of the cops on the case talked to my mom on the phone and like convinced me to go to Johnny's prelim hearing. So I decided to go to support him, even though I knew he was going to waive his, you know, prelim. I was like, whatever, it'll be cool. I get to see him. So I'm in the courthouse or whatever. And, you know, he's done, waived his prelim. He's going back to the cell. And the cops that were, you know, at my house to search my house were both there that day. And they're like, I get up ready to walk out of the courthouse. They're like, Ann, where are you? Where are you headed? And I'm like, I'm home. He's done. I'm out of here. Like, I knew this was going to happen. And they're like, no, you're not. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, we have an arrest warrant for you, and slapped the handcuffs on me right then and there. So I ended up getting hit with charges from the house, you know, when they searched the house then.
Paraphernalia, you have children around.
Endangering the welfare of my children. Yep, all that. So I got arrested right in front of Johnny. We're sitting side by side in the cells back there talking. he's freaking the fuck out on these cops. Like, yo, you're out here to ruin families. Like, what are you doing? Leave her out of it. This is, trying to say everything possible. And
he's trying to take the fall. He's trying to be like, no, it's everything's me. And
right, exactly. Like, keep
yeah.
her out of it so she can stay on the outside with the kids. Like, she'll get the help she needs, whatever. And nobody was having that. The judge ended up setting bail at $20,000, and the conditions were I couldn't be around my kids and I couldn't have contact with Johnny. So yeah, I wasn't coming home. What was the point? If you bail me out and I can't even be around my kids and my parents knew I was getting high, like there was no point.
They're not going to let you out.
Nope, yeah. Exactly. So I stayed in jail and I went through withdrawal in jail off of that Fetty with Trank, and it was fucking brutal. And they don't give you nothing.
They don't give you dick. They don't give you Advil. They don't give a shit.
Yep. I think I got Benadryl maybe, and I think like one Tylenol, and that was it. It was bad. It was really bad. And I was like, well, this is it. But it was crazy. In that moment that those handcuffs got put on me, I surrendered right then and there. And I was like, I don't have to live this way anymore. Like, this is it. Like, I know the days to come are going to be fucking hell. One, because I've never been arrested and been in jail before. It's going to be a whole new everything for me. And two, I'm going to be withdrawing like a motherfucker, but like, it was a sense of relief that I didn't have to live that way anymore. And just all the chaos of going down to the city and driving and finding ways and means to get more and the money and this, like, it was just a sigh of relief, and unfortunately that's how it was meant to happen for me. I was forced into it to get clean, but I took it for what it was and I just never looked back. And I spent 19 days in county jail and I ended up having a prelim hearing. My bail got reduced and I was ordered to inpatient treatment, was from jail. And I was, by the grace of God.
You're a first time offender. You never got in trouble in your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
You went to school, you have a college degree.
Yeah. A lot of factors.
You are a mom. That is taken consideration.
Right. And a lot of things were. So I was grateful for that. And like, the drug and had my drug and alcohol eval done at the jail. And by the grace of God, the first bed that opened up, I was able to get into a Mommy and Me program out in Lancaster County, Lancaster City. Yeah, so I said, I'll take it. I said, I will take it. It's the first bed open. It sounds like a great opportunity. They told me on the phone it was long-term treatment, like 4 to 6 months that you're there. And I said, that's okay. You said I can have my kids there. Sign me up. So after spending the 19 days in jail, I went straight to the rehab from jail. And I spent like 2 weeks there by myself, getting acquainted to the rehab and the program. And then my mom and dad brought my sons up. And all three of us lived there at this, inpatient long-term rehab for 4.5 months. And it was truly life-changing.
And talking about cities earlier, Lancaster, I know this for a fact, has really good recovery.
Very good recovery. Very good recovery.
Really good recovery. I used to, so I made a joke earlier about addicts not wanting to drive a half hour to go to methadone, so when I came, Mannheim is where I was getting high. Mannheim is right next to Ephrata, not right next to Ephrata, right next to, I'm blanking on all the towns now, because there's so many small towns in Lancaster County. But Mannheim is where like the Renaissance Fair is.
Yes.
Right off of the Turnpike. And I used to drive and get on the Turnpike right in Mannheim and drive to Philly that way.
Right.
When I quit doing opiates in April, by this time my parents had bought a house in Annville, which was like by Hershey.
Okay.
And my brother bought a house in Palmyra, which was the next town over from Hershey. My little brother signed papers to buy his first house the day that I left for rehab.
Wow.
So completely, one son's buying a house, the other son's going to rehab.
Right.
And my sister owns 2 houses, and she's 9 years younger than me, and she owns 2 houses.
Wow.
Playing the game of Monopoly. She rents out one and they live in the other. Like her and her husband are killing it. I love my sister. She's very proud of her. And my brother, he does amazing too. He's a very hard worker for his family. But so my parents had that. And so like, it was just me in the house. So they moved me out of there while I was in rehab. And I stayed out in LA for like 6 months. I wasn't coming back. I had a sober living out there. I loved it. And eventually I came back. And when I came back, my parents were like, you're staying with us until you can get your shit figured out. You know, I ran a business with my dad and brother. We ran a plumbing company in the central PA. Very well. You know, I worked very hard. Even as an addict, I worked around the clock. And, you know, we all did. So I came back and my dad put me on a salary. Instead of me making buku bucks, I went on a salary, making a lot less money, but manageable. And eventually I got an apartment in Hershey and lived by myself. This is all before I met my wife and moved even further up north. But when I first got clean, I was living with my parents. I was going to AA. At that time, I was going to AA. And I was going twice a day, noon every day, and like an 8 o'clock or a 7 o'clock meeting I would hit every night. And I found twice a week a meeting in Ephrata, which was about 45 to 50 minutes through Lancaster, where from, you know, Annville, from where my parents were living. It was a solid 50-minute ride. And I decided, my theory was, I'm going to drive. It wasn't as far. Let's be real. It's not as far as going to Philly or Jersey. But I wanted to drive far from my recovery as I did for my addiction.
Yes.
And so I started twice a week driving 50 minutes each way to an AA meeting when there was plenty close by. And I used to go to ones in Lancaster City, which was about 40 minutes away from where I was living in Annville. And I was doing that all the time too. And Lancaster has great recovery, moral of the story. So you were going to outside meetings when you got into
Lancaster? When we were there, that was one thing we were allowed to do. I mean, it was really like different type of rehab from what I was used to when I went to like my 30-day inpatient stay. This was way different. Like we lived in a house with all women and children, you know, and ones that were pregnant and everything. And I was the only one there who had 2 kids, you know, so it was a lot, you know, but that was one thing we could do was go to outside meetings on the weekends. And the recovery out there was just amazing, you know, and like, I was just so grateful that I was given that opportunity to go to a place and get better with my sons by my side, you know, and like my one son, my eldest son, Brody, you know, he was a very late walker, you know, and whether my addiction attributed to it or not, I don't know. But he also was nonverbal at the age of 2 when we got to the rehab. And by the time we left the rehab, when was it? December of 2023, he was talking. So like, it was not only life-changing for me, but for my boys too. Like that was the first time they were ever around other kids. We lived.
I was going to say around other kids.
Any other kids. We lived a very isolated life. Like all we knew was this house. Occasionally, you know, if Johnny had the car, was out working, I would walk down to 7-Eleven to grab cigarettes or whatever, and we'd stop at the park. But that was the extent of it. They were never like, we were always just home all the time, you know? So it was the first time they had a daycare there, you know, for them to be able to be around other kids and people. And like I said, it was literally, you know, life-changing. And it's what I needed too. Like I needed long-term treatment after that 5-year run that I had just been through and everything I went. There's no way I could have seen myself in and out of a 30-day rehab. Like, you know, I just, no way, you know, and I just embraced it. And I said, this is it. I'm never looking back, you know, and I ended up being like the leader of the house, you know, for the last like 2.5 months and, you know, chairing the NA in-house NA meetings. And I just like embraced it to the fullest, you know, even with being in there, you know, and like my parents were so supportive, you know, they would come up and visit on the weekends. I'd call home to them if I needed anything. My mom would Amazon it to me. You know, and like, it was just so nice to have that love and support and knowing that they hadn't turned their backs on me. You know, they hired me a lawyer for that case and everything. And like, it was just like, I knew then I have to do this. And I knew Johnny wasn't coming home for a long time, you know, and I was like, I have to do this for myself, for these boys. And like I said, I just embraced it, the whole experience. And we ended up spending 4.5 months there and came home right before Christmas in December of 2023. So like it was a long, you know, long overdue, but everything was meant to happen how it did. I truly believe me being forced into it, having to be arrested, go to jail, ending up at that rehab. And the 4.5 months while I was away, my parents took the time to clean the house out, you like literally clean it down. Like I came home, new sofas, you know, everything, furniture changed around. Like they made it a happy, safe, healthy environment, you know, for me and the boys to return home to. So that is where I've come home to, return to, live to this day. And, I've just never looked back. I got into NA immediately upon coming home, and I realized it's difficult with 2 kids to make meetings in person. So that's when I found Zoom, and so thankful that Zoom
Love Zoom.
Oh my God,
NA.
so thankful for Zoom NA. Like, yep. I seriously don't know
what. We talked about it a little bit when we first started talking, because my Zoom NA, my nooners are Monday to Friday. They're based out of Rhode Island, and I really like that group. I go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon, and 7 nights a week, literally 7 nights a week.
Same here. Yep.
I'm in Santa Cruz, California. I co-host Wednesday, I host Thursday, I co-host Friday, I sometimes host Saturday, but I always co-host Saturday. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm just there and existing, and if they need help, I'm there to help.
Right.
And it's amazing.
Oh my God, it is. It has helped me so much. So like I said, knowing with 2 little kids and bedtime and stuff, I was like, there's no way I'm making in-person meetings. So I started just, trying to find 2 meetings, and then I found Cloud9, and they're based out of Williamsburg, Virginia. And I was like, oh my gosh, the people in this meeting are just so welcoming, and something just really stuck with it to me. So I ended up making it my home group. I started to get in service, co-hosting and helping out. Then I start hosting. I've been in a hosting position. It'll be almost a year now that I've been in a hosting position.
I love hosting.
And I love it. I absolutely love being in service. These people are my second family. I'm so close with them. I've had the privilege of meeting 2 of them, one from North Carolina and one from Virginia. And I love it. And it helps me so much in my recovery. And it's a good place to end my end of the night after a long day, whatever, to get on a meeting and just be of service and help the newcomer, whatever it may be.
We both do 9 p.m., right? We both do 9 p.m.
Yeah, 9 p.m. Correct. Yeah. So it's just a great way to end my night. And like I said, these people will stay on the parking lot afterwards talking for hours up till midnight. It's crazy. And it's like, I'm so connected with these people, and they literally are my second family. And how much all of them have helped me in recovery, and the relationships I've gained today, and just being in service. And everybody gets weirded out. I'm literally there every night, because we meet 7 nights a week too. And if I'm not there for some reason, they're like, oh my gosh, where's Ann? And they're just used to seeing my face. And it helps me stay clean. And being able to share my experience, strength, and hope through this program is a beautiful thing. And it's just all these things that have, happened and worked out, I'm now the group chairperson of my group, Cloud9. And we just did nominations 2 months ago. So I took on that year-long commitment, get to run the business meetings and do, meeting verifications and whatever, and it just is so nice to be in this spot in my life today, to be able to help others and the still sick and suffering addicts, or the newcomers, or people in early recovery, or whatever it may be. I really, truly don't know where I would be without the program of NA. I just believe that from the bottom of my heart. And it helped me get through some really hard times while I was clean. So fast forward, I came home December 2023, got into outpatient, got into a life living with the boys here clean, and had those charges, that case that I was, dealing with, endangerment charges, paraphernalia, whatever. And my lawyer on that case calls me at the end of March, and she's like, so the cops have been doing a year-long investigation. You have a warrant out for your arrest with additional charges on all the wire case, and you have 11 co-defendant. It was a big deal. They were doing a major investigation through cell phones, everything. So she's like, you have a warrant out for your arrest. They're not going to come beat your door down, but they're giving you the opportunity to turn yourself in. And really being an addict, and so many other people I've talked to in recovery, that would have been their ample opportunity to run and go get high and say, fuck this, whatever. But no, I did the right thing. And we came up with a date that was good for us. My kids were watched, whatever. My parents took me up to the courthouse. Cops were there. I got arrested. I got arraigned. And bail was set to $250,000, which we weren't expecting. Thank God I was in a good spot in my life that my parents were willing to bail me out, and knew that I needed to be home for these boys, and that I've been so far, I think at that point I was close to 9 months clean, they saw the change in me and everything. So they decided to put the money up, called the bail bondsman. I went to the jail for a couple of hours until my bail got set and got released. Thank God. So that was last year, 2024, April, that I got hit with all that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I got hit with 16 felony 1 charges. It was part of a RICO case. corrupt organization. Like, it was crazy.
He had a crew.
Right, we did exactly. And they did a lot of investigation. The affidavit was 300 pages long. Like, they had us on a lot of stuff, the GPS on the car. Like, it was thoroughly investigated, and unfortunately I got tied into it. Even though I was never out in the act of cutting the wire down or doing anything of that, I helped transport it to the scrapyard in the city. So it is what it is. I got tied into it. I had to take it for what it was. So it was hard doing the right thing, turning myself in, but I did. And through this program of NA and being able to come on these meetings and share about it, and like, oh my God, I have an arrest warrant out. Like, those 2 weeks leading up to when I turned myself in, I'm like, I shouldn't even be driving right now. Like, God forbid I get pulled over for whatever reason. Boom, I'm leaving that instant to go to jail. Like, it was just crazy, but everything happened how it did. And like I said, my parents got me out on bail. I'm so grateful for that. So I could continue my life, living clean on the outside, doing everything I needed to do with my baby boys. And, it ended up working out accordingly, by the grace of God. And like, I was so nervous because like I was looking at some serious jail time with this, obviously. And not to mention, I had the other case I was still fighting with the endangering welfare charges. So now I have 2 open cases that I'm out on bail for. So it was just like a shit show, but like I remained calm through it all. And I said, it's going to be what it's going to be at this point. Like, I'm still going to continue on my life, this path in recovery, keep doing the next right thing, and hopefully it'll be recognized. And so fast forward to this year, I was out on bail for well over a year, probably like a year and a half. I ended up pleading guilty to 4 felonies and 1 misdemeanor was the total of it. And I was given the option of like recovery court, but with the recovery court, there was a lot of jail time with that. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's what goes in. Like, I'm going to take my chances with the judge. So I did an open plea, returned to my original judge, and she saw all the change that I've done in my life today. Like, I had documentation of everything. Like, my home group, the Cloud9, they wrote me a letter. The chairperson wrote me a letter of like everything I do to be in service, how much I help others still sick and suffering addicts, all the different things. Still being an outpatient. I'm still an outpatient to this day. I haven't left. I like it so much and it's benefited me, proof of that, just different things, photographs of me and the boys in a happy, healthy home at Christmas time, and like all that was taken into consideration. I'm now serving, believe it or not, on our county's CYS advisory board as the parent representative. Like, I went from someone who had 2 open CYS cases to now the parent representative on the CYS, advisory board. And like, the judge was just in awe by this. And she's like, well, this is going to do no good to anyone, putting you back in jail. So she gave me time served, and I ended up with 8 years probation. And that just got settled this past May, at the end of May. So it all worked out. Thank God. And that's because I just trusted the process and I remained calm through it all. I talked about it when I was upset, whatever, worked through it. I had good family support, and everything. And I try to be proactive about things if I was going to jail. But I'm not going to lie, it was rough being out on bail all that time and having that unknowing on my shoulders if I was going to be returning to jail and for how long. Like, it was just not pretty at all. And I'm just like really, truly grateful that the judge saw that I'm a changed person today. And she said so herself, addiction can hit at home to anyone, anywhere. It doesn't matter race, gender, whatever, age, anything. It can affect anyone, and that's a fact right there,
Yeah.
And that's just a fact, And so she said she was proud of me, and she's, sees me as a success story and wishes me the best of luck in the future. So it just felt really good at the end of the day and have this finally behind me.
Yeah. Now, you got 8 years probation.
Correct. Johnny.
What did he get?
So he, for the original gun charge case that he got, when he got pulled over with the ghost gun, that he got 6 to 12 years on. And they're running it consecutive for this Pico, for the wire case, 7 to 14 years.
Consecutive?
So
not.
What is that? 13 to 26, I think. Yeah. So 13 to 26 he got. Yeah. Yep. And only has 2 years in. It's crazy. But, it's the price to play. They looked at him. He was the ringleader of the operation, and the mastermind behind it all. And, You know, he's
It
paying.
sounds like he was taking responsibility for it too.
And he did, 100%. He definitely did, you know, because he knew like that I got arrested. You know, he wanted me to live a life on the outside raising his boys. He knew he was hit, you know, and wasn't going to be coming home. So, you know, that was the least he could do. And like, you know, I'm grateful to this day that I get to live this life with these boys on the outside, you know, because it has just been living this new way of life and living clean. It's just so beautiful. And the rewards of it are amazing. Like all the things I get to do today, you know, I may not want to do them, but I get to do them. And I wake up and I just take on whatever the day, you know, comes, whatever's thrown my way, you know, and like, I'm grateful for that. All the memories and experiences that I've shared with my boys and birthdays I've been able to be present for. And, you know, it's just like I'm truly living a life today that I never thought was possible. The love and support that I have from family, not only my side, but his side too. Like my boys are away right now with Johnny's sister, you know, and it's because they have part of that family and everybody's been supportive of me and my recovery journey. And like, I'm just forever grateful for that, you know, because it's been a lot, you know, everything that has been through, even, you know, all that happened and still getting clean, you know, and being clean and everything that we were dealing with in the unknowing. I've still somehow managed just to continue to move one foot forward in front of the other. And I'm just like really, really grateful for that, you know, because I didn't think a life was possible outside of the drugs. And that's the honest to God truth. I literally thought I was going to be a drug addict forever, you know.
Is he local?
Who, Johnny?
Yeah.
He's like 3 hours away. He's up in Huntington County.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll say, you know, I just recently, originally when my bail or when I got sentenced, they said no contact with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So my lawyer just put a thing in and the judge and DA signed off on it that we can have contact now in regards to the boys so he can be informed on their lives, you know, and know everything that's going on, that they're safe, happy, healthy, and all that. So that's just going into effect next week. So I'm grateful for that he'll have the opportunity to stay tuned on, you know, life on the outside here a little bit. And anytime the boys are with his sister, he calls and talks to them then. But yeah, it's been a lot, you know, returning to this home that we once used in together. You know, I just managed to try to put the past in the past and continue moving forward to this better life, you know, and just embrace this opportunity that has been given to me, you know, and like everything that I've been through, I feel like I truly have a calling to help others in this disease of addiction. So I am enrolled in courses, a training course to become a certified recovery specialist this fall.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and go through with that, you know, do the courses for that, you know, get my pass the board test through Pennsylvania, and then hopefully be working by 2026. So,
nice.
You know, it's just nice to be able to have things to look forward to today and know that this crazy, chaotic life doesn't revolve around drugs. You know, it revolves around two little toddlers running around and, you know, whatever happens, if they're about to kill each other on the floor, about to kill each other, you know, or, you know, if we're out having a blast running in the yard, whatever it is, like I've had so many good experiences with my children, and being able to be a clean, present mom, it's amazing, you know, because I was a mom in my addiction. So I thought, you know, they were cared for, fed, you know, bathed, all that, but I was not there present, you know, like me and as a person was not present for them like I should have been. And I'm just like truly grateful that I have the opportunity to do that today. And like I said, I just haven't looked back, you know, the program of NA, go to meetings every day, every night, you know, and just keep moving forward and help others and share that there's hope out there for this disease. And it is possible to live a new way of life.
Yep. Would you say 11 felonies you were facing?
Yeah, 16. I had 16. And then I ended up pleading guilty to 4 and 1 misdemeanor and walked away with 8 years probation. Now I owe $2 million in restitution to Pico, but
yeah, you do.
Hey, that's as expected, you know, and it'll be, you know, amongst the 11 co-defendants, but it is what it is, you know, like I'm just grateful that I can live this life on the outside with my boys today, and I get to follow all the rules and do everything, and I have nothing to hide from. I can be open and honest with my family, with everybody, you know, I have nothing to hide today. And like, I've never been able to live like that. And it's just a beautiful thing. Like the relationships I have with my mom and dad now are like beyond amazing, like the best they've ever been. You know, just texting my mom over stupid shit. Like, oh, did you see this house was on fire? Or, oh, I heard sirens down the street, or whatever it was, you know, stupid shit, you know? Like, I just talk to them every single day now, where they were inexistent in my addiction. And we lived such an isolated and private life. And like, it really does help having the love and the family support, you know, behind me and my boys, you know, and I'm just truly, truly forever grateful, you know, that they never turned their back on me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have the family support.
No, they don't.
You know, and they don't, even like when I was at that mommy and me rehab, like there were, you know, women there
people that weren't getting visits.
Right. And clothes, they didn't have clothes for their
something.
babies. And I'm like, Mom, next time you come up, bring some of, you know, the boys' old clothes to, you know, for so-and-so's baby, you know, like, because they just didn't have the family and resources and support, you know, and I get it. It's hard, you know, but I'm fortunate enough that I do have that. And it has helped me tremendously along this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said two things earlier that kind of stuck with me too about NA. Are you like in a WhatsApp group with everybody in your home group?
We do Group Me. It's called Group Me as well.
Okay, we're in WhatsApp, and it's fun this way. If somebody needs somebody to cover, you know, they send out. And it's so fun because like I've started this. I started going to this meeting in Santa Cruz, probably like third week of December. You know, and I've missed maybe 4 times since then. And that's not even an exaggeration. I'm sure you get it. Like, you know, when I say 4 times, I mean like 4 times.
Right.
And where I live now in Bloomsburg, you know, we don't live close enough to catch the Phillies games. And I'm a big Phillies fan.
Yes.
You know? And so when they're on national TV, I like to watch the games. And last Sunday, I was like, I'm gonna skip tonight. I'm going to just watch the game on my recliner and just sit and relax. And then a message got sent out 20 minutes before the meeting. Hey, I need somebody to open the Zoom room for me because the host on Sunday nights doesn't know how to open the room. And I said, I'll open the room and then I'll pass you over the hosting.
Right.
And then I'm just going to listen because I'm in the middle of something right now. And before you know it, I'm fucking serenity keeping. I'm keeping people out. Like,
yeah. Oh, I already know it.
Co-hosted the entire meeting.
Yep.
Phillies won. I watched the game. That was cool.
That's a plus.
But yeah, I ended up co-hosting the entire meeting when I was just going to just not even do the meeting.
Right.
And the other thing you mentioned was ending your day in a meeting.
Yes.
When I first got sober, and I say sober this time because I meant I was going to AA at the time in California, because California and Los Angeles, they were very acceptable with people using cannabis in their recovery in AA. So I was going to AA, and every day at 11 o'clock, I got permission from my sober living to break curfew. My sponsor, his home group, was an 11 p.m. meeting called Late Night. And every day, 7 days a week, I was at late night at 11 o'clock at night, and I would end my day with going to an AA meeting at 11 p.m. that start time and not get home until 12:45 by the time people hung out in the literal parking lot.
Yes.
In the literal parking lot, and bullshit and talk and get home. And then it was the best way to end my day ever. So when I started looking for Zoom meetings, I was like, I want something late at night, not too late at night, not 11 o'clock at night, late at night, but late. And I found that 9 o'clock Santa Cruz meeting, and I haven't missed since.
Yeah,
you know, and it's amazing. So it's been amazing getting to know you, Ann.
Yes, thank you.
Hearing your story.
This has been awesome.
I love how much we have in common with where we're from, both from, you know, our parents together, you know, and we're the only one out of our family that really fucked up, and you know, opiates and how we discovered opiates and the whole thing. We have so much in common that it was nice to, you know, it's always nice to like hear your story being told, you know, and that's because that's what's caught me onto the program to begin with. Any kind of program was sitting in AA because I had to be there because my rehab took us to meetings, outside meetings. And the only reason I was excited to go to AA was to get out of the house just to smoke a cigarette and hang out with regular people. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in AA and I hear somebody at a podium telling my story. And then I was hooked into the program ever since.
Yep.
So, you know, it's always nice when I can talk to somebody and hear my story being told to me. So that's why I was able to guess a lot of your stuff.
For sure.
A lot of your shit. You wouldn't have pulled the wool over my head like your parents. That's for damn sure.
For sure.
So, Thank you so much, Ann, for taking so much time today to sit down. I know we said hour and a half, and we're running on 2.5.
Yep.
That should happen sometimes. What are you gonna do?
It does. Yep.
Especially when you're facing 16 felonies and RICO charges and fucking
about it. Crazy, you know, but I am where I am. I had to go through everything I got through to be here where I am today, and I'm just grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend, Ann.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
See you. Bye.